Berg.
Here.
Crary.
Here.
Friedos.
Here.
Holf.
Here.
Ozowski.
Here.
Whitney. Wolf.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, first we'll begin with number 2, approval of meeting minutes for April 21st, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll move approval as submitted.
I'll second.
We have a first from Jonathan and a second from Tricia Berg. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
All against? Anyone against? Motion passes. Thank you. All right, number 3, FlexPace loan request from Johnstown Bean Company.
Mr. Chair, excuse me, due to Alaris's relationship with the client, with Johnstown Bean, I respectfully request to recuse myself from this discussion.
All right, so can I get a motion to recuse Mr. Wolf from voting?
Mr. Chair?
To allow, it was either allow him versus. Okay.
Yep, you should, you should have the motion be, because you have an obligation to vote.
Okay.
And so the motion should be to permit, having the disclosure to permit Mr. Wolf to participate in the vote. If that vote fails, then he would be recused. If the vote passes, then he would be permitted to participate.
So,
I motion that Mr. Wolf can
Okay.
vote.
I'll second.
all right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Aye.
All right, that motion fails. So Mr. Wolf will not vote. All right.
Thank you, Chairman Friedos, members of the committee. First item for you tonight is a FlexPace loan request from Johnstown Bean Company. It's a primary sector certified, family-owned processing facility located up in Gilby in Grand Forks County. They process raw agricultural materials, primarily pinto beans, edible beans, and for wholesale and retail markets around the world. They're looking to do some expansion, which I'll have Mr. Lund from the EDC come up and kind of give you some background on that. But just wanted to give you first sort of the financials behind the request. Their expansion project is going to be funded in part by a $500,000 Alaris loan, on which they're requesting just shy of $8,500 of JDA PACE or FlexPace assistance rather. That'd be deferred again for the standard 5 years. We're paid in 12 months at 2.5%, and we'd be secured by blanket UCC on equipment and then corporate guarantees as well as 2 personal guarantees. So with that, I'd ask Keith Lund to come up and give you some background on the company.
Hello, Chair Friedos, members of the committee, Keith Lund, Grand Forks Region EDC, pinching for Kevin Hatcheries on business travel today. Don't have a lot to add. Company Johnstown Bean is really purchasing a robotic palletizer, really to replace a labor-intensive process with a more efficient process. They've been in Johnstown Bean operating for several years, and rather than me go on to much detail, I think I would like to invite Dylan Carley, who's the general manager of the facility and son of the founders of the company. I will mention also that the EDC board considered this application at our May 1st meeting and recommended that we move it forward to the growth and consideration. So with that, I'd like to invite Mr. Carley to just say a few words about the company and what they're doing and why it makes sense for them.
Hi,
Good afternoon.
I'm Dylan Carley from Johnstown Bean Company, and we're applying for this loan because we are going to be putting in a robotic palletizer, which will manually grab bags off our bagging line, stack them into pallet formation. They can be 50-pound or 100-pound bags, and it will be a big move for the efficiency and safety for our employees. No longer will employees have to have the limitation of being able to hold 100-pound bags or lift 100-pound bags, and it will open up our potential job applicant markets. Right now, having that as a requirement really can strip down who we can hire. And as I'm sure you all know, it's a fairly tight labor market in the first place in our region, so anything that could help on that end would be very good for us.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Yes, Ms. Ozowski.
So I'm guessing their primary sector business because they're agriculture, correct?
That's correct,
And-
yep.
And they are just family-owned, there's no other countries
Correct.
that we need to worry about or anything
Yep, my
like
parents
that?
own 100% of the company.
Okay, thank you. I move approval.
Second.
All right, we have a first from Ms. Ozowski and a second from Mr. Crary. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you.
That motion passes.
Thank you.
All right. Number 4, PACE loan request for Northern Plains Railroad.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
as due to my role at Alaris and our relationship with Northern Plains Railroad, I request to recuse myself from discussion and voting on this matter.
I motion that Mr. Wolf can vote.
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Mr. Wolf will not vote. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Friedhoff, members of the committee. Here with a PACE loan request from Northern Plains Railroad. It's a private railroad business headquartered in Grand Forks. They assist in the operation of just shy of 350 miles of track in the region, along with providing various other railroad-related services involved in the transportation of regional commodities here in the Grand Forks region. So also a primary sector certified company solely owned by Mr. Greg Haug. They're looking to expand some of their fleet and purchase some additional railroad equipment that I would not do justice explaining what it does. But I'll have Keith come up in a bit and explain that to you as well, or pass it to the company to do so as well. Some financials for you. Again, the project funded in part by roughly $2.96 million Alaris loan, in addition to some owner equity to fund the purchase of that equipment. Looking for $116,511 from the growth fund in FlexPace assistance here. That'd be, again, deferred for the 5 years, 12 monthly payments at 2.5%. And then there's a subordinate UCC on business assets, as well as a personal guarantee from Mr. Haug. And then I'll just say corporate guarantees from the various listed affiliates and subsidiary entities listed in your staff report. So with that, I'll have Keith come up again and give you some further background.
Chair Freehoffs, committee members, also EDC met on May 1st to consider this application and move it forward to the Growth Fund Committee for consideration. Again, primary sector company due to its importance and integration to the supply chain for companies that are needing rail. I would clarify that this is a PACE loan, not FlexPace loan. For this, it has a minimal difference, so I want to make sure of that. So I think Andy mentioned that it was buying the interest rate down from 6.63 to 2.5%. Also has the whole list of, in terms of collateral, UCC on assets, personal guarantee from the owner, as well as a list of all subsidiaries that are guaranteeing this loan as well. Again, I don't know that I could do any better in terms of talking about the equipment, other than it's really important for our particular A customers in the region, but all customers alike. So I'd like to invite Tom Ide, the CFO for the company, as well as Ben Leiden, who's the Director of Safety and Operations for the company, to talk a little bit about their operations and, again, why this investment is so important to them.
Thank you. I'm Tom Ide, CFO at Northern Plains Rail. As has been stated, we're single ownership. Greg's owned the company for all 20-some years that it's been in existence. We run the railroad. We also have a number of other businesses affiliated with this, which allow us to do track construction. We do rail services for other sites, industry sites, as the like. We do a little bit of track repair still, do some safety training, a number of different businesses. This is focused largely on the railroad, with us purchasing some replacement locomotives and also some track repair equipment that'll make us more efficient. I'll let Ben go ahead and explain some of that.
Yeah, so a big part of this will be upgraded locomotives. Technology we're running now is getting to be outdated, so we're looking to upgrade our fleet to keep up with modern train standards, more fuel efficient, more environmentally friendly, and a lot of the track equipment is in about the same state, so we're looking to upgrade a lot of that, keep better practices of maintaining our railroad, and keep everything safer.
The economic efficiencies of these things will be fuel savings, and then a lot of labor savings on the track repair. The equipment we're buying goes on the rail, helps put things down a lot quicker than just a human crew can do. So those are the big upgrades. So any questions for us?
Any questions? Thank you for everything you do for the community. I don't think you guys get enough thanks for, if you went away, we would be in big trouble, so.
Thank you, appreciate that. Thank you.
So there's no, you have no foreign investment in your company at all?
No, Greg is the individual owner, and then various trusts he's created, but it's all him.
Okay,
No investors.
okay, thank you.
Just maybe, Chair, just maybe more of a comment than anything. Just reviewing everything, it's great to see great wages, you got great security, great guarantees, great loan to value. I mean, a great company, great support for the community. So for all those reasons, I move approval.
Have a first, do I have a second?
Second.
I think he beat you to it. I have a first from Mr. Curry, a second from,
I just have a quick comment.
yes.
And this ties not just to them, but we were given a playbook by CFIUS, and I would really appreciate it if we would start using that, so at least we had the information available to us with those questions. Because I guess you guys stand up here and say that there's no foreign investment, but I would like to know that we're actually doing our due diligence and checking in on this stuff. And I know that I've asked for that before, and I guess this would be a company where I would really like to see some more research done on it. So, thank you.
So first and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I
All right, so we have, let's see, 5 approvals and 1 opposed by Mrs. Zowski. All right. Number 5, PACE loan request for Cirrus
Chair,
Industries.
for the clear, I think we have 4 approvals,
Is it 4?
1
Yeah, oh,
opposed,
yeah,
1
right.
recused.
1 recused, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Thank you.
public math is not my thing, so, no. Go ahead. Go ahead, thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Friedhoff, members of the committee. Here with a PACE loan request from Cirrus Industries, primary sector certified, global leader in personal aviation manufacturing. They have about 170,000 square feet facility in our industrial park. They've been there for a number of years. They're in growth mode. They're expanding with a major 30,000 square foot expansion to the facility. Part of what we hope would be a larger expansion over the near-term future. So all positive on that front. This is going to help them increase some of their production capability and that sort of thing out there. So again, I'll have Keith come up here to tell you a little bit more about the company, but the financials, again, about a just shy $9.5 million Wells Fargo loan, requesting $269,231 in JDA PACE loan assistance. It'd be just a 3-year deferral on this one before the buy down is used up. So it'd be a 3-year deferral, structured then with a balloon payment at the end. Again, a little different than our normal, which is 12 months. But should there be any change to that, it'd be a 2.5% interest. That's what's going on the commercial loan. In this case, it'd be secured by initial subordinate UCC filing on all the current equipment that's in that facility, in the Grand Forks facility, followed by a subordinate UCC filing on the newly purchased equipment to come as part of the project. And then there's corporate guarantees as well from Cirrus Design Corporation and Dakota Aircraft Corporation. So again, with that, I'd invite Mr. Lund back up for some more context.
Thank you, Andy. Mr. Chairman, just a couple of things to highlight. This is one of the components of the development agreement or that was signed by the city, that was entered into by the city of Grand Forks. Recall it had 2 PACE loans, one in this binding and one in the next. To facilitate components of their expansion. This one is focused on the equipment, and the second one will be focused on the real estate, just a little bit of a foreshadowing. Also, the property tax discussion that is going and having a final piece of that tomorrow. Just to underscore a couple of things, first of all, the EDC board considered this and moved it forward to consideration. The project, and I have here with me Steve Thomas, who is the Director of Operations from Grand Forks. He's been up here several times, so I think I'll not invite him unless you have some specific questions for him. So he's kind of gone through that already. And then we have Matt Vogt, who's the finance manager in Duluth. If you have financial questions related to the application, he can certainly address that. I do want to underscore, we rarely see a loan of this size that matures in 3 years, so they're taking advantage of the interest buy down, but the repayment will come to the growth fund and the JDA within 3 years, which is quite accelerated. Additionally, in terms of the collateral, a UCC and the equipment, but also not only the guarantee of the borrower, which is Dakota Air, which is Cirrus Industries Limited, but also a guarantee of both subsidiaries that are operating domestically. So there's cross-collateralization with this, and it was a good discussion we had relative to the importance of that at the EDC board meeting. I think I'll stop there and then answer any questions you might have, and certainly the two individuals from Cirrus are here for questions if you have any. Oh, Mr. Chairman, may I mention one other thing? As has been discussed recently, and that the CFIUS has weighed in on this and has indicated through Mr. Dan Burke as the Air Force's representative that the United States Air Force and the Department of Defense don't have any concerns with the proposed expansion by Cirrus. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Rebecca, yes?
With all due respect to Mr. Burke, I still do not think that this is a great idea. I think we should be divesting in China. I know you guys have heard my speech multiple times before, but I really don't think that the current U.S. administration is leaning towards investing in Chinese-owned anything or aircraft manufacturers. They also give 1%. Back to the Chinese government, which is $1.2 million, the last time I did the math. I disagree 100%. Now at this point, we've given them tax breaks on their land. Now they're here for equipment, and then they're coming back for building also. So I disagree 100% with giving Cirrus anything. I disagreed a couple weeks ago, and I'm still going to disagree. I do not think we should be investing in China at all.
And just one comment that I think, our Department of Defense has reviewed this, and they also are one of our largest employers with 502 employees. So, and they've paid back all their loans, so they are following our processes as well. So, thank you, Mr. Lind. Any other questions, comments? Do I have a motion? Nope.
Just a couple of maybe clarifying questions. Again, I would agree, appreciate the willingness to continue to invest in this region. Mr. Lund, you covered, I know we've been through CFIUS, and I put weight in that process myself. The addition of the corporate guarantees of the U.S. Companies, I believe, is prudent, and I know you mentioned that, so thank you. My only question would be is, and maybe it's, I don't know if a member from Wells Fargo is here, or if maybe someone, Mr. Thomas or someone from the company can address, but it's a 3-year, it must be a construction note, I'm guessing. If it's for 3 years, probably not fully amortizing note, I would guess. Is that correct?
I can't.
No, this would, sorry, this is Matt Vogt from Cirrus joining in online. This is for just building, or equipment for the building, so this is not a construction loan.
But will it be fully amortizing during 3 years?
I guess, I might need a clarifier on that.
So there'll be $7.5 million financing to pursue the expansion. It balloons in 3 years, I understand, in 3 years. Are payments made during that time? At the end of that 3 years, what will the balance be?
Presumably, we would have paid it off at the end of those 3 years. I guess maybe someone, Keith, if you're able to answer any of those details there.
I can try and speak to so what they show in the application would be it'd be fully amortized over that 36 months. That's I think based on the discussions we had, I don't want to be quoted on that necessarily, but that's what's shown in the application, and I guess my understanding of our conversations. In any case, I think a portion of this as well is that because it is such a sizable note, if for any reason that 36-month amortization piece is incorrect, our component of that would still be 3 years. I suspect it's because our interest will be, our buy down will be drawn all the way down over that time. So anyway, that's what I'd say to that.
Yeah, in reviewing the materials, I just wanted to make sure that our buy down at the end of the 3 years, which it looks like the note would be repaid, but our buy down is payable at that time.
That's right.
Yes, okay. Which is, again, the right structure, so I'm comfortable. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to underscore, I guess, is our understanding is that the PACE funds will fully amortize within the loan within the 3 years based on it'll be a full 5% buy down for the 36 months. And then upon the 36 months, then they'll make 12 equal installments at the 2.5% interest rates back to the growth fund. So within 48 months, the loan is completely repaid.
Any final comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
I'll second.
First for Mr. Holt and a second for Mr. Wolf. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 5 yeses and 1 nay with Ozowski.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Mr. Conlon, can I just ask, so how full is our bucket for PACE and FlexPace? Like, just since we had a couple bigger ones, I just want to know, like, I just want to make sure we're maintaining lending capacity for more that are coming in. So is there any, and maybe you can bring that next month too, but maybe I'd like to see that too, where maybe just a quick loan portfolio analysis, where we're at, how much more capacity we have, how we anticipate that filling back up.
Sure. Yep, I can do that. All I'll say is in terms of limitations for pace or capacity, we have I think sufficient capacity within the growth fund to continue to make those larger ones. Pace is limited on the B&D side, I guess, per biennium by the company. So I think that's part of the discussion you just heard with that Keith had mentioned, part this biennium, part the next. So it's limited on a company basis at the state level, but in terms of locally, we can feel comfortable knowing we have the capacity for those future ones. But we can provide some.
Yeah, maybe even just
portfolio
next
status or something like that.
Next meeting, just a quick portfolio, where we're at, where's everybody, I know every once in a while we get that on what's deferred, when's paying, who's paying, is anybody behind, just a quick snapshot of that portfolio, that'd be great.
All right, item number 6, accelerate loan modification request for Thread.
Thank you, Chairman Friedhoff, members of the committee. So we've talked about this last month's meeting, this sort of a precursor to this. Accelerate loan restructures on the horizon, so I'm not going to rehash the program details. We've talked about that already. I will just say this, not necessarily an unexpected position for us to be in, particularly with operating a high-risk space with startups especially. Balloon payments and restructures at the back end of that aren't necessarily uncommon, so I will just lead with that. But in this case, I think also it's actually a positive thing for this first company, because Thread, who you'll recall has that $500,000, that first accelerate or high risk loan with us, has that balloon payment coming due in July of this year. They've seen some real successes as a company over that time, and currently are sort of in the process of a Series B round of investment, which I believe is one of only 2 companies in North Dakota to have ever accomplished that. It's a major milestone, certainly outside my realm of expertise, but I believe, I don't know if he's on, but we had Josh Reedy, who could talk a little bit more about those sort of things, and has provided that context with staff over the past several weeks, that they really do have positive momentum. Just timing wise, they're in a spot where that investment round hasn't completed yet, and the maturity date for this loan is July of this year. So we're just looking for the proposal here, and this is approved, terms have been approved by the Bank of North Dakota as well, just to provide a little bit of flexibility in that timeline to allow that investment round to close, which in turn will put the company in a better position to be able to repay us. So the proposal is, as presented by the company, and again, as offered exactly by BND as well, it would push out the maturity date on this from July of this year to April of next year. It would also increase the interest rate on the loan from the 2% currently to 7.5%, which is the prime interest rate. The company would continue to pay those 2% interest payments, which they have been doing over the past 2 years timely, and they're all caught up on those. That difference of 5.5% would be added to the balloon payment due in April of next year. So I point that out to say that in addition to that, we'd have not in exchange, but as part of this proposal, you would get that additional 5.5% interest on the back end with the balloon payment, as well as we'd propose to take out a blanket UCC on business assets of the company, which would give us some security on this currently unsecured loan. So with that, I don't know if Josh is available, but in any case, we got, that's sort of the context, that's the lay of the land of where we're at currently. Oh, and we got Mr. Haga in the audience as well. If you want to say anything, you're welcome to. If not, I'm sure he's available for questions, but that's sort of the lay of the land in terms of what the process is, and I will just emphasize again that B&D has gone through this, they've had the conversations with the company and feels good about this way forward. Their take on it was that it's reasonable to allow the investment round to close so that the company is able to be in a better spot to pay us back next year. So happy to stand for any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I would just add that this was at the EDC board, and as I recall, Mr. Wolf was there too. I think these were the kind of the insights that they provided regarding look at all these two of the three accelerate loans. Let's look at where they're at today. Try to mirror as much as possible with the Bank of North Dakota, and look at their situations, differently, but try to get something accomplished sooner rather than later. And I think that accomplishes what the EDC board requested moving forward to the growth fund.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yes, Rebecca.
So if we don't approve this extension, then are we going to get paid at all?
I guess I can't say for sure from the perspective of the company. The loan would be due, so then it would be back to us to determine what our next steps would be as part of that. Again, considering that, and I think B&D's perspective on this was the same, and considering that these loans are unsecured, it's in our interest for the company to be in a good position to pay us back. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more comments? Yes, Mr. Wolf.
So maybe a question for, Mr. Haga or anybody else. And again, continue to be thankful that Thread is growing the business right here in this region, for sure. Working on a Series B, which is exciting. Any comments on the timing of that, when it starts, when hope to be completed? Any comments on that?
Good evening, committee members, Chair. Committee member Wolf, thanks for the question. I guess I didn't come all the way down here just to look good in the back. So we appreciate, first of all, the ability to be here and you're hearing this request. Josh Reedy is out of town, actually, frankly, meeting with the investors and potential investors as we speak. So I'm here instead. I think the question, Mr. Wolf, on timing is we have already initiated Series B, so we were successful this past year with Series A. We've initiated Series B, and we expect by the end of the year, Q3, Q4, for the conclusion of that, and expecting around a $25 million raise.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Haga. So, as Mr. Conlon said, in my opinion, when we started looking at these things, working with exciting companies, trying to launch significant dreams such as Thread, not uncommon for us to see something at this point in time and looking at some extension. So the fact that they are initiating a Series B is a very good sign. My only comment would be is if expecting the third, maybe the fourth quarter, wrapping up the Series B, to me, I would look to have our maturity date, have us consider it to be the end of February as a point in time to allow a couple months in addition to what the Series B would be. That's my only comment. I know Bank of North Dakota has given until April, obviously put weight in the fact that they're extending it, but having not been in those conversations, my only comment for us to consider would be is having a maturity date that is in between when they expect to close Series B, giving them time, but also, but not too much time, so we can talk again. So that's my only comment, but I'll open it up for other comments or questions.
Any more comments? Yes, Mr. Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think mine's more on just a program level. I think it's just worth noting it's been a while since we did Accelerate, and the whole premise was really piggybacking off of the state of North Dakota's LIFT to try to help cash infuse these companies to hopefully do something awesome. And so it's great to see what Thread's doing. It's awesome. And again, I echo what Mr. Wolf had said, that not uncommon to be here at all. It's also worth noting that for a lot of these companies, it's also, once they go through their Series B, it's also advantageous for them to clean up their debt. So the investors will want to see that debt off their balance sheet. So just noting that as well, I think that's just good, helps put it into context. And then in regards to the terms and the negotiations on extending it or whatever, it's also worth noting, just maybe in the defense of staff, that we did instruct them to rely heavily on B&D, because B&D is the one that's leading this charge. So I just think it's worth noting that a lot of that due diligence work was done on the behalf of B&D. So I just think it's just kind of want to get that on the record as well.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Wolf.
I would just piggyback a little bit off of that too. I just want to, make a note. I mean, as we look at the next 3 agenda items here in this program, I mean, we knew when we started this that, we were taking some risk here, and we were doing that for a reason, and that's because we wanted to keep businesses like this in our region. And I think we've been successful in that. It doesn't mean that each one of these is going to go exactly how we wanted. The 3 companies that we're going to be talking about next are in 3 uniquely different positions, and I think our ability to have flexibility to continue, to have these businesses in the region. I'm proud of us taking that risk, regardless of what the outcomes might be here. We've had other programs at this level that have worked out in other ways, and we've learned from each one of those, and some of those we've decided not to continue some of those programs, and I think that's ultimately what this city does well. So I think I make that comment just because I think flexibility with the stage that we're at right now is important, and if we can continue to support these companies and ultimately get paid back over time, I think that's a win for us. So thank you.
We don't
Mrs.
do the Accelerate anymore, do we? Correct, that's the one that we kind of discontinued. Mr. Wolf, you brought up something when you were speaking about you want to change the due date. Is that correct?
I recommend we consider that, just because if they're expecting to wrap up the Series B funding by the end of the year, giving a couple months to complete that. So to me, giving 3-4 months when you may not need it, that's just something for the group to consider. I would be fine with keeping the same as BND. I would not be fine going any longer than what BND's maturity date is.
I guess I would like to motion approval with changing the date. When did you say, the end of February? Is that when you stated? I guess I would like to go along with Mr. Wolf on that one. I think he's a very smart man.
Well, I won't motion on that, but I'll second the motion by Mrs. Selsky.
All right, so we have a first and a second to make the change for the date. All in favor?
Hold on.
Oh, sorry.
Is there any concern with us changing that date?
I actually have a question, too.
Yeah.
So you first, yes, sir.
Me first?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chair, Committee Member Berg. Frankly, I don't have the information I would need to say if there's a concern with that. I would lean on some of the other comments that have been made, particularly the appreciation for the city staff who have followed up so diligently with this and have done so in concert, excuse me, with BND as far as the due diligence and the timing of the extension. So I can't comment on a fiscal nature, but I can say on a process-wise, we do appreciate all the work that's been done by the city staff, and particularly to do so in conjunction with BND and the LIFT program.
I mean, it's really only moving it up a couple months, and I think if obviously they came back to work out their issues with us one time. I think if there are additional issues at the end of February, they would be more than happy to work through it again.
Yes, Whitney, I know I want to Mrs. Selsky's point. My reason for suggesting this is again, it's closer to when when they'll be through their series round. The other thing, as Mrs. Selsky has indicated, is if plans are changed, we need to talk about it. We'll be allowed to do that in advance of Bank of North Dakota. Bank of North Dakota last time had the chance to talk about this before we did. This time, we would have the chance to talk about it first. We created this program, as Mr. Holt reminded us years ago, to try to leverage the state investment and bring these businesses here. It's a partnership between the state and the JDA. We're trying to be, we're not exact, but we're working together. But that's another reason why I feel moving that up a little bit is prudent. But
Ms. Whitney.
Really, my question, Mr. Haga, is just for, I think, conversation for the panel. When you close your round, if it's to finish, say, in December and it happens to close at the end of the year, what's the typical, based on your experience with your Series A round, how quickly did the round close, and then did you see funding come in and you be able to turn payments back around? Just from a timing perspective, I think that would help this committee understand your lived experience with the funding from an equity raise position, and what does that timing look like? It might help inform this committee as to whether February, April makes sense as part of that conversation.
Mr. Chair, Committee Member Whitney, I have somewhat limited lived experience with the Series A. I don't think in my position right now, I'm not in a fiduciary position. Title of Vice President of Partnerships, which means we can all get along. I think that it would be safer for me not to disclose much about what that wrap-up period looks like. I was listening carefully to Committee Member Query, who does seem to have some indication of what it means to actually close the round, to go through what the financing terms are with the closing of the round, and then to do as much sort of a cleanup, as much of a preparation for how those funds are going to be expended the most prudently. So I would just defer to those types of comments from those folks who are already on the committee, who seem to be aware that there is some sort of a time lag, a wrap-up period after the closing of the round.
Thank you, Mr. Haga.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right. Item number 7, accelerate
Chair,
loan.
I'd like to,
Yes, sir.
conflict of interest and to recuse myself from the vote. So, Mrs. Sowski, if you want to do it again for the third time.
I motion to allow Mr. Crary to be able to vote.
Second.
All right, first from Mrs. Askey and a second from Ms. Berg. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion fails with Mrs. Askey. All right. Number 7, accelerate loan modification request for safety spec.
Thank you, Chairman Friedhoff, members of the committee. So here today with Mr. Ken Barton from Safety Spec, who in just a short while here I'll have come up and share with you some updates on the company and their path forward. But first I'll cover the details of the loan. They've received a $250,000 Accelerate loan, which unlike, I guess, our normal Accelerate structure was reduced to a three-year term with a 6% accrued interest over that entire time, no deferral of interest accrual, with then that balloon payment of accrued interest and principal due at the end of the 3 years, which is coming up here in July. The company has really seen a lot of success over the past several years and is picking up a lot of steam, I think lately, especially with a lot of positive momentum that Mr. Barton certainly is much better qualified to inform you of than I am. I will just point out, though, as outlined in the staff report, the company just does rely on federal grants for a portion of its business, and with the delays that were sort of occurring in that sphere earlier this year, some flexibility in terms of cash flow would be beneficial for the company at this stage. All positive momentum moving forward, but again, that cash flow flexibility would be really beneficial in this case. I'll also point out that uniquely in this case, Safety Spec actually got their lift funding from B&D after getting the Accelerate loan from us. So B&D's portion isn't coming due, so they haven't had to weigh in on this portion yet. But considering that the request is really just to extrapolate out the payments over a 12 equal monthly installments over the coming year, starting in July, rather than receiving them in a balloon payment, they'd just be looking for those 12 equal monthly payments still at the 6%. All other terms to stay the same. So from staff's perspective, it's a fairly straightforward request. Feel good about it. We are adequately secured. We feel with a UCC on a company patent that we discussed when the loan was first approved. So I think with that, I'd ask Mr. Barton to come up, and if you have any updates you'd like to share on the company and sort of the path forward, and then I'd be happy to stand for any questions, as I'm sure would he.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I want to actually open this up and kind of show you what was built with your loan and with a lot of other money. There's a bunch of updates to give you. This is called the Contamination Sanitation Inspection Device. So this is the only device in the world that can see biofilms, among other things, that are invisible to your eyes. So it uses fluorescent imaging, and we went from an R&D phase. Right now we're commercializing this, so we're starting to sell it. We're working with equipment manufacturers in food processing and food packaging industry, and they're actually reselling this when they sell $1 million pieces of equipment to verify things that are properly clean, if that makes sense. So think about Boar's Head recently, where they had a liverwurst slicer that was dirty, killed 10 people, 7.2 million pounds of meat recalled. If they had used this, they would not have had a problem. So now we're working. So on the food side, actually on last Thursday, I just came back from DC. I'm a little frazzled because I'm jet lagged. But I had dinner with Bobby Kennedy, personally. That was pretty interesting. So we're going to food processors, food packagers, dairy. There's pretty much endless applications for it. A lot of money went into building this. It was mostly funded by the Department of Defense. I'm not sure if you saw in the news, over the last 2 years, we were able to drive about 9.6 million into UND through the DOD. We were a subcontractor. Some really good news that you're going to hear in the next week or so. There's a contract sitting at UND's legal, which has really got me frustrated. Myself, or Safety Spec, Edgewood with Phil Giese, and Comdel and UND just got the 28th award out of ARPA-H out of 16,000 submissions. It's for $17 million. So you'll hear about that in the news in the next week or two, hopefully sooner than later. The other news, we just acquired this company. It's called Hypermed. This is a company, 38 million venture went into it, and they got FDA approval for this device right before COVID. They kept their doors open, and they ran out of money. The venture capitalists that funded them took over the assets. I know the VC that funded them because I've been talking to them for ourselves. They just invested in our round by giving us all the assets to Hypermed. So we are an FDA-approved medical device company as of Friday night. This is interesting for the city because I'm actually going to want to talk to a bunch of folks here because we're changing from a R&D company to basically a commercial company. And we're going to end up basically hiring a lot more people in Grand Forks because we're going to run the back end of the business right here. And we manufacture, so we're moving the manufacturing to Wahpeton. So I'm not sure if you know who Comdel Innovation is, but they're our manufacturer. So we have a lot of good things going on. We're cash tight right now. The closing costs, I keep on going out of pocket, and if I spend any more money, my wife is going to leave me. So I'm hoping that you guys will approve the extension on the loan. I think we have about a $27,000 or $30,000 a month payment, which isn't a problem. We can do that without a problem. The but I'd like to have more cash on my balance sheet right now, if that makes sense. I'm raising money, so we're trying to close another $6 million in a Series A. It's looking like we're going to be able to do that relatively soon. I plan on paying the loan off, by the way, early. You guys have a lien against one of our patents that we don't like, and I want to make that go away. But thank you, and thanks for the support, and we really enjoy being in Grand Forks, and trying to support the community. I bought a house here too.
First, congratulations on the good news. And being a techie, I appreciate you bringing it in the show and tell, because it's kind of nice to see where the money goes, right? And that's great news. So congratulations, and we always like to hear about labor increasing. So well done.
Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Ozowski.
Yeah, I greatly appreciate the show and tell. Normally, people don't come in here and show us what we help finance, so that's really, really neat.
We built really cool stuff.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome, and I'm excited about your HyperMed. I don't know what that does, but is that going to look at the biofilm on our bodies?
No, the HyperMed is a wound analysis technology that's bleeding edge. We also, just letting you know, we got 40 patents. FDA-approved quality system. We have 140 of the HyperMed, all the assets combined on it, and these things sell for about. We're starting to sell them for $45,000 a pop. But we ended up getting all those assets for $3.6 million, and basically mostly stock.
Okay, so right now we have a lien against one of your patents, then that you'll get back once you pay off this
Correct.
full loan. What's it a patent for the HyperMed?
It's not, HyperMed, we got 40 issued patents separately.
Okay.
But when we took the loan out, we basically let you put a UCC lien against one of the CSI patents. So for one of the patents, and we have a lot of patents now.
Okay.
One of the patents on this one. So you have a lien on one of the core patents.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Questions, comments? Mr.
Just so the loan was maturing, Mr. Conlon, in July of this year, but we're extending it for 12 months, putting it into payments over those 12 months, and then so the loan will still schedule on the new schedule will be repaid before the BND lift loan matures. Is that correct?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your investment in the community. Thanks for the update. That's neat stuff. That makes sense to me, but thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Whitney?
Yeah, mine's actually more a point of order. I don't know if we want to make another motion, but Safety Spec is a member and does have an office at the Center for Innovation at UND. So I don't know, just to put that out there. And I don't make any personal gain off of it, but it's just, that is where one of their offices is located here in town.
I don't think we do, but thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Good to have it in public.
Yes.
I'll motion to approve.
We have a motion first. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a first from Ms. Berg and a second from Mr. Wolf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Number 8, accelerate loan modification to pursue collections. Tailory.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
due to a relationship Alaris has with Tailory, I request to recuse myself from the discussion.
I'm going to make the motion, but here's what I have to say is we all have an obligation on this board to vote. Unless you don't have financial interest, I do think that people should be voting. But with that being said, I will motion once again that Mr. Wolf can vote.
Second. First. All right, I have a second for Mr. Curry. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion fails with Ms. Ozowski. All right. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman Friedhoff, members of the committee. So unfortunately, on the heels of two positive stories in our Accelerate world, we do have a negative one. Unfortunately, with the high-risk loan program being what it is, we do have our first official default under the Accelerated program. Tailory notified staff I believe just last week. via the email attached to your staff report that they're ceasing business operations and winding down the business. The loan is unsecured. And based on the email, they've indicated that there's no financial resources available. B&D is aware of the situation as well, and I think is evaluating their next steps, though I would suspect they would explore a similar option to us and see what their options are. So staff recommendations, the same as with our other defaults that we've had, is to formally declare the loan in default and then authorize Mr. Gosted to sort of begin that process of evaluating what assets may or may not be available in a way to Ms. Osowski's point in the past in a cost-effective way. So that is the staff recommendation. Happy to stand for any questions.
Just one comment, as Mr. Holtha mentioned, right, we'll have a lot of successes and we'll have a failure every once in a while, and I don't think it's a reason for us not to pursue business in Grand Forks. So it happens. So, all right. Any comments, questions?
Yeah, so we're just going to have Mr. Gosted try to do what he does, right? I move approval.
Second?
Second.
First, Ms. Osowski, and a second from Mr. Curry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, number 9, EDA RLF loan modification request for Integrity Fundraisers.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
First, a comment. I understand Mrs. Selski's point, and this meeting has been one where I'm requesting to recuse myself. I do take it seriously. I do want to vote when I can. However, the company that I work at, we're fortunate we have relationships with many groups within this region, and therefore, I do not want to, I wear 2 hats, one at Alaris, one for this group. And if we have a relationship specifically, if we're lending money, I don't ever want the appearance of that I'm treating Alaris or the city. So that's why I take this very seriously, and I know you probably understand that. But that was a comment. With this one as listed in the materials, again, I'm requesting to recuse myself from the discussion on this next matter.
I appreciate your concern, but if it doesn't personally benefit you financially, I disagree. I think that you have a lot of knowledge and you bring a lot to the table, and I really enjoy the discussions that you're able to provide on these matters. And so once again, I'm going to motion that Mr. Wolf is able to vote. And with that, if we all vote to allow him to vote, that protects him a little bit. Also, is that my understanding, Mr. Gosted? Could you explain that, please?
Usually when there's the conflict of interest are pecuniary interests, right? Those that because of the way you vote, you might be benefited one way or the other, right? You're either going to gain resources or you're not going to lose resources. And so you generally disclose that conflict. And then the non-conflicted members have the opportunity to permit that person to participate fully, including to vote. So it does, in that regard, the disclosure of the conflict is the most important component of that process. And then the second critical component is obviously the non-conflicting party members then deciding whether they're comfortable allowing that person to participate.
Thank you. Once again, my motion is on the floor to allow Mr. Wolf to vote.
I have a first, I have a second. What was that? I couldn't tell where it came from. I have a first for Ms. Osowski and a second for Ms. Berg. All those in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
All right. Motion passes with Ms. Osowski. All right, I think that is it. I motion for adjournment.
Oh, we got one more.
Oh, was it? Oh,
Yeah.
oh, we're still, sorry, I got derailed, sorry about that.
Alrighty, so before you hear, the last item of the night is a restructure proposal or loan modification request from Integrity Fundraisers. They got a $95,000 EDA RLF for what was known at the time a C-Run loan, COVID response loan, money we got from the CARES Act during the pandemic to help businesses bounce back from the pandemic and that sort of thing. Integrity Fundraisers business is largely in helping schools and other local organizations through fundraising efforts, promotional materials, that sort of thing. So as you can imagine, they were hit particularly hard during the pandemic, and really have just struggled to kind of fully recover as those organizations' sort of fundraising patterns and standards, I guess, have changed. They've really, I think, struggled to get back on their feet here. They did make some progress on the loan. They've paid it down about $20,000 roughly over that time, but over the past year or so, they have fallen pretty significantly behind. Over that past past year or so, several months, they have been communicating with staff throughout that time. Has become the standard for the growth fund, we've directed them to meet with SBDC to kind of evaluate the business, develop a workable path forward. They've made some serious steps, I think, over the past year. That's kind of fundamentally changed how they've approached certain aspects of their business, including, changing locations, cutting some overhead and staffing costs as well. So, as towards the tail end of last year, as they kind of found a new foundation or a new stable place from which to build, they have been communicating continually with staff. They have met with SBDC, and included as part of your staff report, they have come up with a proposal in collaboration with the SBDC that presents a workable path forward for them. I think and we have Scott back here from the company, there he is, who can speak maybe more to this should you have any questions. But I think the general approach with this is that it sets a stable, predictable foundation to help them chip away at the loan in the short term while they do try to rebuild and recover the business and build it back up to where they want it to be. With a balloon payment then structured at the end of that 3-year term so that we can, as we've talked about tonight, revisit this, with the hope being that they're in a much better position in 3 years and can really start to chip away at that loan. I'm sure he would prefer to be able to be in a position to be able to pay it off in that balloon payment, but that's the proposal before you. I will just say, as you've seen me up here a lot talking about the past due loans and the people we work with. I will give a lot of credit to these guys. They've been excellent communicators throughout the whole thing. It's taken longer, I think, than all of us would want it to over the past year or so to get to this point, but I did just want to point that out, I guess, is that, we do ask people to communicate with us, and they certainly have. So with that, like I said, I'm happy to stand for any questions, and Scott Reinhardt is here for any questions you might have as well.
Yes, Mr. Reinhardt, thank you for the good communication. You don't have to come up unless you got something you want to say, but I just wanted to say thank you for communicating. We've dealt with other companies that, they go radio silent or ghost us, right? And that's just not, I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning trying to put themselves in this position. So I appreciate it, and I think everyone else does as well.
Mr. Perry's comments?
Yep, Mr. Perry.
Yeah, 2 comments. One, I totally agree. It's kind of refreshing to see somebody that actually takes the right steps. It's not a fun situation to be in, but obviously great communication with city staff, working with SBDC, finding a concrete plan to move forward. So I just think it's a testament to the character. So I think that's awesome. I also maybe more of just again, because C-Run was a while ago, just like Accelerate was. So it's maybe just for the record, just to refresh our memories, is that these were federal dollars that we got, and so never came out of any Grand Forks coffers. Federal dollars that we received as we loan them out. As they get repaid, it transitions. A couple caveats you have to abide by, but it transitions into local dollars. That's correct, Mr. Conlon?
They do remain federally sort of encumbered. Like you said, there's strings attached to how you can use them for a period of time, but by and large, yes, they recirculate throughout the Grand Forks community in our lending area.
Yeah, so I just wanted to kind of at least maybe refresh everybody's memory on that one as well, because I think that's noteworthy, but yes, that's my only comments.
Any other comments? Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
Got a first from Ms. Whitney and a second from Mr. Holt. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
I move adjournment.
Second.
Second? A first and a second. We are adjourned. Thank you.
All right, welcome everybody. We will call to order the Grand Forks City Council meeting for May 19th. If we get a roll call, please, Maureen.
Weigel.
Here.
Salsky. Here. Berg. Here. Lensky. Here. Friedolfs.
Here.
President Sandy.
Here.
And Veen.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 1.2, Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, item 1.3, Mayor's announcements. Busy couple weeks. First, want to thank DHI. They had a ribbon cutting over at their Sweet Streets location, which is where the old El Rocco is. So if you want to get some bakery goods, reminds me of the Park River Bakery back in the day. So small town bakery feel and really, really phenomenal. And it's for an absolutely good organization. So get over there. I was happy to get the State of the City done. A lot going on. I prefer doing the work and not talking about it. So I'm glad that was over. And thanks many of the council members and others who were there and both were there and helped get it done. May 9th, I want to thank Dee Decimus. She was awarded the North Dakota Small Business Person of the Year Award. She owns several different businesses, one of them all embracing home care. She did purchase Kidwells recently. She's just a great entrepreneur and done a great job building employment in the community. So grateful to see her get recognized as a local on the state level. On May 14th, I think if anyone gets a chance, going over to Love in Action, we did serve meals. Served about 100 meals that day. Tammy came with me, Tammy Burris. Just a great, lot of positive people that are just in there. Some of the nicest people, so happy, so positive, and just getting to share meals and chat with them was phenomenal. So right on University, pretty much from here, between here and the Red Pepper, if you want a reference, right on the north side is where Love in Action is. And whether you need a meal or you want to go serve and help out, I think it's great. So if you get a chance, every day from 11 to 1, they got people over there. Thursday, May 15th, we had the police memorial ceremony. I want to thank Chief, looks like he isn't here tonight, but he attended along with many others. A great ceremony was held indoors. Obviously, we're on the 5th year of Cody Holte giving his life in the line of duty, which we'll have a proclamation later. But our team and our PD always does a great job, along with the other law enforcement entities in town, of putting on a really good event. So I just want to thank them for that. And it's a memorial, but you need to do those things right. So appreciate that. And then lastly, just want to congratulate Paul Gronhove. He's a local photographer. He did win the 2025 Mayor's Art Award. This originally started with Mayor Brown back in 2010, and we're still doing it today. Some amazing photographs, really capturing different sites. If you get a chance to check him out, sites around town. He actually did some photos in Uzbekistan as well, so it was kind of interesting getting to see some of those after my 8 years I spent in Kazakhstan, so I got to see some of those hues. That's all I've got for Mayor's announcements today. That was quite a mouthful. Let's move on to 2, awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations.
2.1, recognition of Sue Sherrick on her retirement as Executive Director of Northlands Rescue Mission, and welcome to Everett Jones.
All right, Sue, get up here. We're going to give you a formal congratulations. You put in quite a bit of time. Is Everett back? Is Everett in the crowd too? Why don't you step up and introduce yourself too? Let's let Sue go first, since she was here first. Yeah, Sue, I just, on behalf of the citizens of Grand Forks and in the community, just want to thank you for your work. It's been a tremendous amount of work, long hours, and you've done a lot with a little, and we just appreciate and want to celebrate you today. That's why I wanted to have you here. So if you want to have any words, then we're going to give you a big round of applause and a thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, President Sandy, members of the council, people I've worked with for a long time. I appreciate the words today, and I just want to say keep working to ensure that all members of the city of Grand Forks feel welcome to our community, and keep listening to what our community has to say. And I think if we keep working together, we can make this a better community than it is for everyone who lives here. So thank you. I appreciate being able to serve this community on the police department, at the mission, and I turn it over in good hands to Mr. Jones.
All right, let's give Sue a round of applause and a thank you. All right, Mr. Jones, why don't you introduce yourself? We all saw you got a great headline, great story in the newspaper, but maybe just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yes, sir. My name is Everett Jones Sr. I am originally from Ohio, but I moved here from upstate New York, Syracuse area. And I am just very humbled and grateful to be a part of the Grand Forks community. And I look forward to potentially helping it grow and expand in terms of community service and helping those that are in most need get to a place where they are self-sufficient and self-reliant. Look forward to working to with a lot of the partner organizations within the community. And I do want to say a very heartfelt thank you for the very warm welcome that I've received since I've been here. You guys have been absolutely amazing. I've never experienced anything like it. So I look forward to doing the work.
Thank you. Let's give him another heartfelt thank you then. More round of applause. Thank you. All right. We'll move on, Maureen.
2.2, proposed enhancements to area of the flood protection greenway system near River's Edge.
All right. Ms. Parley, please.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. I just wanted to share with you, since we weren't able to put this on the agenda tonight, that we have applied for additional funding for that trail enhancement fishing area that we had talked about near River's Edge. There's been applications put into the Recreational Trails Program and the Outdoor Heritage Fund. We are still waiting. We should hear from Recreational Trails here in May, and then we're not sure about the Outdoor Heritage Fund, although they do have a meeting tomorrow that we can sit in on, and then they are reviewing presentations on June 3rd. So we will bring information back to you when we have more information to share. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Parby. We'll move on, Ms. Dorstead.
2.3, we have 3 proclamations. The first, National Police Week, May 11th through the 17th, and Peace Officers Memorial Day, May 15th. Poppy Day, American Legion Auxiliary, May 24th, and Cody Holte End of Watch 5-year Remembrance, May 27th.
All right, thank you. National Police Week, May 11th to the 17th, Peace Officers Memorial Day, May 15th. Whereas the Congress and President of the United States have designated May 15th as Peace Officers Memorial Day and the week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week, and whereas the members of the Grand Forks Police Department and area law enforcement play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms in our community, and whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement agency, and that members of our law enforcement agency recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the men and women of the Grand Forks Police Department unceasingly provide a vital public service. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Brandon Bochinsky of Grand Forks, North Dakota, call upon the citizens of Grand Forks and upon all patriotic, civic, and educational organizations to observe the week of May 11th to the 17th, 2025 as Police Week, with appropriate ceremonies and observances in which all of our people may join in commemorating law enforcement officers, past and present, who, by their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities, have rendered a dedicated service to their communities, and in so doing, have established for themselves an enviable and enduring reputation for preserving the rights and security of all citizens. And then we've got Poppy Day, American Legion Auxiliary. And I'll move on to a proclamation for Officer Cody Holte, End of Watch 5-year Remembrance, May 27, 2025. On May 27, 2020, Grand Forks Police Officer Cody N. Holte responded to Grand Forks County Sheriff's deputies' call for assistance after they had been fired upon by a heavily armed suspect within an apartment building. Whereas Police Officer Cody N. Holte entered the threat area to assist Grand Forks County Sheriff's deputies and was struck multiple times by the suspect's gunfire. Whereas Police Officer Cody N. Holte was killed in the line of duty as he succumbed to his injuries on May 27, 2020. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Brandon Bochinsky of Grand Forks, North Dakota, call upon all Grand Forks City Departments to lower their flags to half-staff on May 27th in honor of Grand Forks Police Officer Cody N. Holte, who made the ultimate sacrifice in service of the city of Grand Forks. And let us recognize and pay respect to the survivors of our fallen hero, Officer Cody N. Holte.
Moving on then to 2.4, growth indicators and fund balance policy.
All right, thank you, Maureen. This is kind of a budget sort of update, but one thing that I think is really important as we move forward, knowing that we have 3% caps, that state legislation went through, House Bill 1176. In the past, we've had a policy of 18% reserves on our fund balances on our general fund. I think we're going to need a larger cushion, knowing that our revenue sources in the future, property tax isn't going to be an option to go to, certainly not above 3%. So fortunately, we're above some of the thresholds and the minimums that we're going to look to, but I think it's important to have that discussion of where our reserves should be prior to going into this budget cycle. So we're going to kind of lead into that as part of this. I think there's also some new state legislation that's affecting some other items. There's one as it relates to the court and potentially needing to be a court of record, which has the potential to cost us an additional $200,000+ a year because we need to have an actual attorney stationed at the municipal court, along with some other investments that might need to be made. The public safety plan contributions up 1.23%, state mandated. That's going to cost us another $185,000. I think it's important to point out assessing is going to see some increased costs because now, I think in the past it was a 10% increase or $3,000. Now a valuation increase, all valuation increases receive a letter. So we predict that cost to be about $16,000 annually. I think the last piece to highlight is the Prairie Dog Fund. That's oil money, sales tax oil money out west. Our bucket was moved forward, but it was reduced. It was originally $115 million to municipalities. Now it's $80 million. Our proportion of that would have been about $12 million. That's going to be down to about $8 to $8.5 now. So on top of sort of the property tax caps, there are some other things that are going to hit our budget hard. So long story short, it's going to be more important to have stronger reserves going forward in order to be able to flex and bend as we have some fiscal impact. So Maureen's going to go through a presentation and ultimately look for a recommendation from council on that item. So, Ms. Dorstad.
Thank you, Mayor. Good recap, and I'll just get into a little bit more of that as we go, but this just outlines pretty much what the mayor already stated. I am just going to give you a sense on how things are coming in so far first quarter. It's hard to look at just one quarter in, but you can get a sense on how the year has begun, and then also those legislative impacts and fund balance policy that the mayor just reviewed, and then what those upcoming budget meetings are. But this is our timeline. This is where we're at. We're currently in the midst of, we're in receipt of some of those budget requests, going through those, looking at the limitations, what are the growth factors, and figuring out balancing of the budget as we have meetings with departments and the mayor, city administration. And then we'll be coming back to you with more meetings. And at the end of the presentation here, I'll highlight some of those meetings ahead. But as we look at the first quarter budget performance, some of the big drivers for our general fund, I'm going to focus generally on general fund tonight. That's really our starting point with the budget ahead. Your real estate tax, property tax, that is always front loaded. That comes in early on in the year. Most taxpayers pay within that 5% discount period, so that generally taxpayers are paying that by February 15th. Your sales tax, state aid, franchise fees, that's coming in good. We'll go into a little more detail on sales tax and state aid, but franchise fees, particularly the Excel franchises, is ahead of pace a little bit, bringing that to 20% of the budget so far. Expenses, right on target. 3 months into the year, we're 25% on our general fund expenses. So then in looking at some of these drivers, beginning with state aid and highway user tax, you can see that what we did here is a comparison of the first quarter this year compared to the last 2 years. We're pretty consistent on these two when I'm looking at the 3 years about how that first quarter has come in. When I look at an annual view later, I'll give you a little more detail and background on that. Sales tax, this may look, according to my monthly reports, this might confuse you a bit. It shows that the first quarter is down. That's primarily just to swings in monthly collections. This is reflective of February, March, April. When it compares to the first quarter of last year for February, March, April, February of 2024 was the highest collection year ever, followed by a very lesser than normal January. So I believe some of that was just timing of collections and reporting. Overall, on a 12-month, we're up 6.57%. Just some annual looks here and looking back and what we're projecting going forward. Like I said, it is very early, and what we include in the 26 budget, we're still working through that. But as of this point, with the sales tax, we do have incorporated in our preliminary numbers a 3% over 2024 actual. And you can see the history of 23 and 24. We had a significant increase in 24 versus 23 of a 9% increase. And then state aid, this historically, this has, when I look back, what I wanted to give on this is state aid. When I look back, we used to generally bring in much more. 2014 was our peak. It dropped off, and then it's been building. I don't have a number plugged in other than just holding it flat for now till we get some numbers from the state on how this projects out. But you can see that we have had a healthy revenue stream in here. We increased from 23 to 24. 24 came in better than the 25 budget. Currently, we are up, I believe it's, yes, 2% on the year. So we'll continue to monitor that. And highway user tax, this did come in a little bit higher 2024 compared to 2023, a little bit better than what we had in the 25 budget. For now, my starting point is to hold it flat with 2024 actual. We'll wait to get direction from the state on that. But I wanted to just give as of 2014, this revenue stream, I've gone through this with you in the past, but 2014, we hit our high where this revenue stream was bringing in 3.8 million annually for us, and you can see where we're much below that. So that's, when we talk about prairie dog and gas tax and everything, that's one of the impacts we've had with our street infrastructure fund. And then the levy. To keep a 3% cap, I've included what that is, and that would be a 0.25 mil reduction. That's based on the mill value of 294,460 growing to 307,036. Part of that's coming from growth, part of that from revaluation. Our current levy is 92.25 mils. When we run the calculation, I'll get into this more a little bit later, but when we run the calculation to keep that maximum amount allowed based on the 3% cap, that would bring us down to 92 mils. So then if I just get into some legislative changes here, we've talked a lot about that legislative change on property tax and the caps. The good thing is that $500 primary residence credit, the increase from $500 to $1,600. So that'll provide some relief to property taxpayers. The reform part does put a tax on property and collections, like I said, to the 3%. An exception they put in there for a public vote. We could go to a general election if we don't think we can live within that means, and that would be good for 4 years. And that would be a simple majority, but it would be required to be at a general election. But that cap does calculate to a 0.25 mil reduction. Some of the restrictions as part of that, the mayor highlighted this, is it requires letters be sent out to all property tax homes instead of currently, if your value went up over 10%, now it goes to all. So that impact is roughly $16,000 for that mailing. And then prairie dog, some of this we're just working through still. Like the mayor stated, they decreased what goes to cities and counties from 115 million down to 80 million. How that all shakes out, I'm not certain yet. We're working through that. Before, it was a $2.5 million bucket that we received, and then the remainder based on growth. So we're currently working through those numbers to see how that all shakes out. I guess the good thing is they move the buckets forward, so it's more certain to fill. Allows us to do better planning. If we had stayed where we were before, that larger allocation may not have completely filled either. So we'll work through that and see what the impacts are. They did increase slightly the highway tax percent from 34.5% to 35%, but that's only estimated at 14,000. The big amount that they tried to compensate, I believe, for the prairie dog move was with this flex funding. So 18.6 million in grants that would be competitive, but there's this 18.6 in disbursements that would be a disbursement allocation. And that's also what I'm waiting for some numbers on how those funds would be distributed. So all of this is very early, and we're working through what this all means to what the city of Grand Forks receives. Some of the other changes, there was an increase to the contribution required for that public safety pension plan, which involves all our public safety, fire, police employees. That's estimated $185,000. They did make a change where now 911 employees are eligible to receive, and that would be an impact of $65,000 annual if City Council decided to move those employees into that public safety pension plan. And then also, this was highlighted, municipal court, official court of record. I'd estimate that impact $100,000 to $200,000. We would have to have a city prosecutor present at all times. But the main part, I just wanted to start the discussion of fund balance. The mayor started off with his thoughts on here. I wanted just to give just a general foundation sense of fund accounting as we get into fund balance policy. So the way we're governed is we have our governmental funds and we have our proprietary funds. And fund balance means something different depending on what type of fund it is. So I just wanted to give you that background. We're going to highlight general fund, which is a governmental fund. But just so you know, there's other terms in policy as it relates to fund balance. So really with your general fund, your governmental funds, you're talking about, what are your financial resources? So basically it's your checkbook. What do you have left in your checkbook balance after you've paid all the bills? Versus the proprietary funds, they're looking at all economic resources, including things like, inventory and other non-cash items. And this I'm not going to go through all this, but this just lays out those different classifications that are in your current policy that shows those restricted versus your committed versus assigned versus unassigned. Like I said, we're talking about unassigned tonight. And there's also a non-spendable that would be part of your fund balance that's like inventory and things like that. But tonight we'll just focus on our unassigned, which current policy is at your 18%. And this is what, as we go through the budget process, we're going to address as we get into the talk of what are those revenue sources, what should you consider when looking at the level of that fund balance. When you ask the question, what is the right amount, that's going to be an item of debate. But to the mayor's point, we want to consider this as we look at, what are those reliability of the revenue sources? What is the timing of your cash flow? What is your stabilization fund? What is those discussions of the rating agency? So starting with reliability of those revenue sources, property tax is your most stable source of revenue, and sales tax state aid can be a little more volatile. So when we're in this time that we're coming off of reliance of property tax, little more reliance of sales tax, state aid, that's where we want to look at this fund balance policy. And just the timing of cash flow, I highlighted this before, but your property tax comes in the front of the year, sales tax, state aid throughout, expenditures really throughout the year, as payroll is your main expense in general fund. And then those bond rating impacts, really just a healthy fund balance is important to them. If you are going to spend on that fund balance, what is your plan? Was it planned? Was it unexpected? Those are the kind of the conversations you have. We use, in times of good years, we build up balance. We'll use it for, excuse me, filling some capital needs, one-time needs. You don't want to consistently use for operations. And then we also look to our loan and stabilization fund to help along the way. So moving forward and speaking with the mayor, we're going to work through this budget process to really look at that policy. Currently, and this is when we look at our policy, it's what is the percent of your balance as a percent of next year's expenditures. So when we look at that, we are currently at 29%, very healthy balance. We have increased that over the years due to healthy sales tax, state aid, permit revenues. Like I said, we've been using that for certain capital purchases. We do have targeted $3 million of items for mainly streets equipment that you've seen come before you. But before we make any changes, and I know the mayor wants to see a change to 25%, we'll work through that. Just want to make sure, and more of a long-term increase as we go forward. So we'll work through that. We want to make sure we can have a plan that we can sustain, and we can uphold that plan, and looking at that long-term vision. With that, that's really what I wanted to cover. Like I said, it's very early in the process. We continue to meet with departments. We do plan to come back to you June 16th with the salary plan and the general fund, just a preview at that time, and then present in middle of July. Ultimately, looking at August for preliminary approval and September 15th for final approval. But with that, I just wanted to give you just a sense of where we're at with the budget, just what we're talking about with fund balance policy, and really just looking at the change in some of the stability of revenue sources and how we want to reflect that in our policy.
Thank you, Maureen. I just wanted one more comment, then we'll kind of open up. Obviously, this wouldn't really go forward, and we wouldn't set the policy till the budget approval, but just having an idea where council wanted to be. I just wanted to make one more comment. Where are other cities at? Williston has a policy of 15%, Bismarck has a policy of 40%, Fargo has a policy of 25%, so they're kind of all over the place. What you need to keep in mind is we don't want to go too high, because there could be a city that has a policy at 40% of reserves, and if they're at 30, the bond agencies are going to look at that very poorly. Where a city that has a policy at 15%, and they've actually got 20% reserves, even though their reserves are much less than that other community, they're going to be looked at more favorably because they're above their policy. So I think having a policy and working it higher is good, but we don't want to be too high where we look like we can't meet our policy, because that would be bad for bond ratings in those agencies when they look at financing us for debt service and such. I just want to open up to council, see if we're on the right track, see if they've got any other thoughts on kind of a long-term policy or thought. President Sandy, please.
Yeah, I think it's a good strategy, Mayor. With the cap at 3%, certainly we need to make sure that we have our reserves well suited for any sort of a emergency that might come up. Even, around here, the emergencies aren't that bad, but sometimes we need resources, and so it's good to have them. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Any other comments for tonight? Yeah, Ms. Osowski, please.
I think it all looks really good. You did a good job, Mr. Mayor. I don't want to see my property value get jacked up, though, next time they come around, just to collect more taxes and be within the 3%. So, thank you.
Yeah, it's probably important to point out that doesn't affect the 3% cap at all. So your property value can do whatever it wants. The amount of dollars that's coming in is going to be the number, like the revenue number. So, and in the end, it is good that your property value goes up. We should push our mills down to match that, which is what the city always tries to do. But have no fear, the city's on it, and you're in charge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
No problem. Any other comments for tonight? Yeah,
I
President
actually do
Sandy.
have one more question. So on the 1,600 from the state, just so people know, that we don't have to opt in for that like we did for the $500, correct?
I think you do.
You actually
have
do.
to apply
It's going to be
receive
yeah, we think it's the same route, so we need to do heavy on the marketing to make sure that everyone that's available can, and I think it's worth spending some dollars on. But we did that in the past with the 500. I think we'd double or triple our efforts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other comments for tonight? And I will just say the council's done a great job the last 5 years, going from not knowing this is coming and going from a 20% reserve up to a 29 has been a function of both increase in revenues and economic growth in the city, but it's also been cutting expenditures. I think we've done a great job of tightening up where we can, so that's a kudos to the city council in getting us there. So thank you, Ms. Storstad.
Thank you. Yep.
Move on to item 3, public hearings and second readings of ordinances. Should have gave you a second to sit down and put your glasses on.
That's okay. Okay, 3.1, public hearing and second reading of ordinance related to fluoride.
All right, so we'll open up the public hearing. If there's anybody here to speak on item 3.1 related to fluoride, please come to the microphone. All right, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing portion, and we'll look to council for motions.
Approval.
Motion to approve from Ms. Osowski, second from Ms. Berg. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
3.2 is the public hearing and second reading of ordinance relating to prohibition of camping.
All right, thank you. We'll go in the same order. I believe there may be some people here to speak, so just we'll give some time, but anyone here to speak on item 3.2 as it relates to the camping ordinance, please come to the mic and just state your name and your address, and then in a public hearing, you really have as much time as you need to speak on it. No one will cut you off unless it's kind of gets repetitive. And
Mayor, I do have two people who filled out cards, so there may be more in the audience that didn't, but
Okay.
Pat Moore.
why don't we let these two? Yeah, you stood up first, so you get to go first, and then if you could just say your name, then you can cross them off if they're on there.
Okay. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Pat Moore. I'm president of Homeless Helpers, which is an all-volunteer organization in Grand Forks. We've been operating about 7 years now. I'm here to oppose adopting a policy about ticketing for camping and sleeping in vehicles. I think it's critical that you get input from all the different organizations who are involved in Grand Forks who work with homeless. I don't know if you're familiar with CANA, the Community Agency Network Association. I think they have a lot of critical information that can help you in the decision process, because I think ticketing individuals, and it's obviously homeless, it doesn't help them at all, because if they have a fine, they're unable to pay for it. It puts them in, puts a record on their, for a crime, and that makes it more difficult for them to get housing. And so I think it's important to get the input. We've worked closely with the Grand Forks Police Department, with the Rescue Mission, with the Nest, with Spectra, Northeast Human Services Center. And so in my 6 years of being involved with this organization, I've not seen or heard of it as being a problem. I understand that the police chief wants to do this preemptively, but I think there are definitely consequences that need to be addressed before considering enacting a policy like this. If there are truly individuals who are homeless and need assistance, there are some other options I think that be considered, and I think we need to get input from the organizations. Is it possibly lack of adequate long-term housing? And I think that is an issue. And possibly the city could work with landlords, giving them some type of rebate or tax credit if they work with homeless individuals, whether it be for a day or a week or a month. I think that might be an option. I think it's important to look at is there a need for more case managers, social workers in the area to help these individuals get directed in their life path, because overall, I think we want to improve the life of the individuals. We want to improve our community, and I think it's important to get the input. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you. My name's Gretchen Graf. One of my jobs is to work for Family of God Church, and a part of what I do there is I spend the money that we collect to share with social workers in the community. We are a very small church, and last year we gave away $43,000, which is not nearly as much as many do, but it gives us a stake in what happens with the people in this community who need help. Last winter, when it was very cold, We were asked multiple times to provide motel rooms for people who were unsheltered. We help when Homeless Helpers has done all they are able to do and when emergency shelters are full or unavailable. So in January, I was running out of money, and I asked the people I was helping, when I have no more money, where will people be sheltered? And at the time, the answer was nowhere. So in sub-zero weather, as the person who was about to have to say no, that felt life-threatening to me for those who would not be served. We are lucky in Grand Forks that we have many, many caring social service agencies and many skilled social workers. Last October, I invited them all to lunch, and 60 came. So we have many. I know that they are working hard on the complex issues of housing, and I understand that the situation is already better than it was last January. But for some people, camping in public places or sleeping in their vehicles is still an important option of last resort. Camping on the greenway or in public spaces is not recreational. They are there because they cannot afford to go to a campground with amenities, and they have no place else to be. People who are unsheltered sometimes present as a problem in the community. They are often unsightly. They may feel threatening, even though they rarely are. But the people are not the problem. The complex issues that have caused them to lose housing options are the problem. They include illness, job loss, sometimes addiction, divorce, lack of affordable housing, or emergency shelter. We are lucky that our police department and the many compassionate helpers in our town are working on these problems, and they deserve your full support. You may feel that you must pass this particular ordinance because other cities in North Dakota have similar rules. You may want to support new leadership at the police department, and you absolutely should do that. But please, do not let this be your only response. Please don't stop until you know the answer to the question: if you prohibit camping or sleeping in vehicles, where will those without shelter go?
Thank you, Ms. Graff.
Good evening. My name is Everett Jones. Met you earlier. I won't take up too much of your time. I just wanted to touch on a couple of things. As we're making these decisions and going through the process of deciding which direction to go, there's a couple of things that I want all of us collectively to be mindful of. To echo her point, where will these people go? Right now, I am simply asking for an opportunity to bridge that gap, right? To figure out a solution to what some view as an issue. Those of us in this field, we may not view it as significant of an issue as perhaps someone that's not in the field and don't understand the nuances of being unhoused. But there are several. One being, I guess speaking from my own personal experience, there was a time where I had to sleep in my car, right? And to that point, had it been illegal, essentially. I could have gotten a criminal record. Criminal record prevents me from getting housing, depending on where you want to live. That's just the reality. There's a lot of landlords that have that as a stipulation, that you cannot have any criminal conviction on your record in order to live somewhere, right? Secondarily, we have to consider the nuances of each person's situation. Again, to echo some of the points that the previous speaker made, someone could be homeless simply because they don't have ID. And now on top of that, they have a criminal record. And on top of that, they have a fine that they can't afford to pay because they can't get a job because they don't have ID. And that takes time. If you don't live in North Dakota, or if you weren't born in North Dakota and you come here looking for a better way of life or whatever the case may be, and you're saved from California, it may take you a year just to get the necessary documents to get an ID. So I ask for us to slow down this process a little bit. We are all collectively working together, as all the organizations in the city should and are trying to do, to figure out how to bridge that gap, how to come up with a solution other than making homeless people criminals. Because that's essentially what you're asking us to vote on. That's what you'll be voting on. Are we going to make them criminals, or are we going to allow them to roam about the cabin freely, so to speak? I understand that sometimes it can be a nuisance. I understand that sometimes it can be uncomfortable. But I ask that as a community, we consider the humanity of the situation, right? Don't make it impossible for their situations to be corrected. Give us an opportunity to do the work that we are trained to do, that we've dedicated our lives to do, to fix this amongst ourselves. And if we can't fix it, then so be it. Right, but at least give us a chance, space, and opportunity to come up with a solution. Maybe it's a street outreach program. Maybe it's, something else. There's so many requirements to get into these programs, and we are collectively, hopefully, working together to kind of bridge some of those spaces where we don't necessarily align. But there is space and opportunity for this to be fixed, and I would ask, ladies and gentlemen, that you just pause this for a second and allow us to do the work that we do. Hopefully, we can come up with a solution that benefits everybody, not just one side of the pendulum. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Good evening, Mayor Bruchansky and members of council. My name is Jill Proctor. I am with the Downtown Development Association. I've worked alongside many in the audience for over a decade, working in a shelter in Grand Forks, and so I feel their pain when it comes to needing IDs and what it's like to try to house people that seem to be unhousable, that they've gone through every possible option. So I empathize with that. I also see a very different side in my current role. I see the impacts on the small business owner and the residents and children and people that are trying to enjoy a particular area of our community, which is downtown. We don't really see that this is criminalizing homelessness. I believe that has kind of been the narrative that's been shared with me. But we see this more as a tool for law enforcement to enforce some of our ordinances and prevent something further from happening. How it sits right now, there is nothing preventing anybody from setting up a tent outside a small business owner's storefront. There's nothing from setting up a tent outside of City Hall. There's nothing that prevents anybody from coming to the community and just setting up tent wherever they'd like to. And this ordinance would prevent that from happening. I agree with everybody that we need more resources. Our team spends a lot of time in the spring, going into summer, meeting with the individuals that are frequenting downtown, particularly in Town Square. The majority of the problem is not the unhoused, it is actually the housed population of people. Right now, there isn't an ordinance or a tool for the police department that would prevent some of the activity that we're seeing happen. So this isn't about housing necessarily, but they are still camping out. They're doing different activities that I don't think anybody would like to see any further. I know some of you have seen pictures. We ask that, our support is that it's to the police department and empowering them and giving them every tool possible to make all of our community safe, accessible, and that it's an approach that's taken for also the small business owner and not just for the individuals themselves. I wrote down a few things because I get super nervous in these situations. So we just want to recognize the importance of the long-term solutions like shelter, housing, and support services, and we do value the work of all of your organizations, and we appreciate the space that they are in. But that being said, we also see the need for immediate tools to manage situations where behavior becomes disruptive and unsafe for the rest of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Proctor. Was that all the written ones that you had? All right, I'll just wait another second if there's anybody else that wants to speak on this item. All right, thank you. Thank you all for being here today and for your comments. With that, I'll close the public hearing portion and open up to the City Council for discussion and
I move
motions.
approval.
Got a motion approved from Ms. Osowski. Do we have a second? I'll second. Got a second from Ms. Lunsky.
Mayor, just a quick comment.
Yeah, please, Mr. Vice President Weigel.
Just a couple quick things. I think there's a narrative that we are criminalizing camping. That's not true. This is not a criminal citation. It's not a misdemeanor. It is a civil penalty, and Mr. Gostick can correct me if I'm wrong. It does not mean that everybody will be cited. It doesn't mean that anybody will be cited. It's solely a tool that law enforcement can use at their discretion if they need to. And I appreciate all the organizations that do so much for our homeless population. One thing that I know I'm familiar with is it's hard to help people that don't want help as well. And so I would love everybody to get the help that they need, whether it's dealing with substance abuse, whether it's dealing with being unhoused, any of the social issues. And so from what I've heard from people in the downtown area, that I think this is becoming more of an issue, unfortunately, and it hasn't gotten better over the last 5 to 10 years. And so I think it's a tool that law enforcement can use, and I'll be supporting this.
Thank you, Mr. Weigel. Further comments, President Sandy, then we'll go to you, Ms.
I think it's important to point out that the ordinance allows 24 hours. We're giving them notice and giving them 24 hours to vacate. Our police department are well-trained to use sound judgment in these sorts of situations. The purpose is not to be punitive. The purpose is to dissuade people from camping in places in public areas. So I don't see this as the opportunity for us to do anything punitive other than just to have people behaving the way we would expect all of the citizens in our community to behave. I'd also point out that there are upwards of 150 beds at the Grand Forks Mission, and only 48 were used last night. So the people that want to be derelicts and hanging out outside, they do it. They're making that choice. There are all the resources in the world to get help. I think when Sue, and I'd like to give a shout out to Sue Sherrick as well. I didn't have a chance to say something earlier. When she took over the mission, all 150 beds were being used. And they were consistently being used, and we had a significant problem. And Sue used her brains and her heart and her collaborative nature to work with people in order to establish rules at the mission that were, I believe, in the best interest of the unhoused people in our community. She set time limits of people, how long they could be at the mission. She told them that they couldn't be higher on drugs, and she told them that they had to work with her to seek permanent housing. And she was so successful doing that. And I can't thank her enough, and I'm so proud of what our Grand Forks mission has done. And I know Mr. Jones will do an excellent job at continuing that work. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, President Sandy. Ms. Berg, please.
Yes, thank you. To your comment, Mr. President Sandy, not all individuals are welcome at the mission. due to various reasons, and I'd be happy to discuss that with you another time. But as I've had conversations throughout the community the past couple of weeks, I've received so many commendations regarding the police department and people's appreciation for them and how compassionate they've been with their interventions and the proactive approach that they've been taking with having more presence downtown. And I really appreciate that, and I wanted to share that. People feel like there's good collaboration between the police department and service providers, and I don't want to see that change. I want to continue to see that momentum and continue to support all individuals in our community. Again, like I've said, I don't think this is the correct way to do this. I think we're still going to be facing the same issues that we're currently facing. And so I anticipate this not going the way I want it tonight and still going through. However, I don't think this can be the end of the conversation. I think we're still going to have behaviors that we need to address, and so I want us to continue to work on this.
Thank you, Ms. Berg. Any further comments? Mr. Veen, please.
Yeah, I'm really not sure whether this is right ordinance or not. What I do understand today is homelessness is a really complex issue. If somebody can't sleep in a car and has no other place to go besides camping out, what are they supposed to do? I'm learning more about the organizations that are working on homelessness. My question is, implementing this really going to be a fix? It sounds like this might be a good starting point. I won't say starting because it's been going for a while, but maybe for the city to be more involved and knowledgeable about all the efforts that are needed and necessary to help people with homelessness. Is there an urgency today to do this until we get more feedback and more understanding? Maybe the creation of some type of further committee that involves everybody, that maybe already be happening. I just don't know. But I do think that some of the unfortunateness of people having to sleep in vehicles is real. And I'd hate to see this be problematic. Now, the question I have to ask is, I think one that we talked about, is it, what type of penalty is there? What is this?
It is we intentionally did not include any penalty in the ordinance itself. It falls within the non-criminal provisions of our ordinance. And then because we intentionally excluded any type of penalty provision, you defer then to 90502, which talks about non-criminal offenses being a fine of $1,000. It's not a criminal offense. It's a non-criminal offense of a fine of up to $1,000 in the discretion of the court. So that would be the maximum, and the municipal judge would have to make the determination as to what that would ultimately be.
Anything further, Mr. Veen? Oh, you got your mic on, maybe?
What do you see the next steps should be for the city and our city council?
Is that a question for Ms. Berg? Ms. Berg, would you answer a question?
That's a great question.
Please.
I'm going to admit that I don't have the answer. This is a complex issue that not just we are facing, it's throughout the nation and other countries as well, as I've recently learned. I know that CANA has done amazing things, and I know that this has recently been presented and discussed at one of their recent meetings, and I do anticipate that conversation is going to continue, but I want to continue to support in any way that we can. I don't know what all the answers are.
Anything further, Mr. Veen? All right, thank you, Mr. Veen. Any further comments? Ms. Lunsky, please.
So if there's the 24-hour period, if someone's sleeping in their car on public property, right? They can sleep in their car somewhere that's not public property. But what happens with that 24 hours? They're just asked to move within 24 hours.
Yeah, I don't know if DC Johnson can answer that, or if Mr. Gosted wants to try first.
Yeah, there is a notice. They're asked to move themselves, and if they don't, then further action can be taken at that point.
Anything further, Ms. Lunsky, please?
I just want to state I am sympathetic to the homeless population, but I really do feel like we need to think about the small business owners downtown. It's a really difficult time to be a small business owner, so I think we need to show support on both sides.
Anything further? We'll go Mr. Friedhoff, if you had something, then we'll
Just
go
real
to you,
quick, I
Mr.
know,
Suski, to
and
close.
it was great to hear Mr. Jones speak, and I think you're going to do a great job. And it's such a complex issue. If you would have asked me about this years ago, I probably wouldn't have had any idea how complex this issue is. And, we've got DDA speaking about how important it is for small business, and you've got people that are unhoused, and you need to deal with that. And so, whatever happens tonight, we don't just walk out of this room and say, problem solved, right? We all know that this is a continuing problem, and we all got to help it because it helps all of us in the long run, right? We need to make sure that, there's a holistic viewpoint. There's a lot of engaged people that want to help. And so I think it's important just to realize how important it is, and that we need to do, there's probably more we can do, but we also need to consider the small business owners as well, as Ms. Lunsky said.
Thank you, Mr. Friedhoff. Ms. Osowski.
Yeah, just a little comment. I'm going to have to agree with Mr. Wagle that this is not a fix. This is a tool to allow our police department to keep us safe and to keep activities that really aren't public activities off of our streets. I do have a lot of empathy for the homeless, but, we have the Nest, we have Northeast Human Services, Homeless Helpers, Family of God Church, CVIC, The Mission, we have a halfway house, we have United Way. If we cannot help people that do not want help, these are all services that are provided within our community that can help people get off the streets. And so, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And that has a lot to do with our issue that is going on downtown right now. Like Mr. Standy stated earlier, the Mission is not full. I don't know if any of these places are full. If there are people out there that are truly in need of services, we provide them in this community. I think we provide them more than a lot of other communities do. Obviously we have the winters. People cannot survive in the winters here. Also, if you need to sleep in your car, we have truck stops. We have 2 Walmarts in this town. There is property that you can go and camp at. You can put a whole camper in Walmart's parking lot, and they do not care. I think that they advertise that almost around the country. And so this isn't us trying to dock the homeless. This is us trying to keep our community clean and safe. As a mother of 3 young daughters, I do not want my children walking around a homeless encampment at all. That my children, we have a high school that is in this downtown area. We have another high school that is right across the bridge. A lot of children are walking around downtown. We have Tea and Crepes. We have a movie theater. And I want to provide my children the safe community that I grew up in, and allowing homeless encampments doesn't make me feel safe. What about my children who want to ride their bike down the Greenway bike path? That it's a beautiful park, and there are lots of opportunities for children to get out and play. But I have a 14-year-old. I don't want her wandering around down there knowing that homeless encampments are approved and legal in our community. That doesn't make me feel safe as a mother. It makes me sick. I barely allow my children out of my sight the way it is. And if we don't stop things like this from happening, or at least give our police department the tools that they need to keep our community safe, are we even doing our job as a council in keeping our community safe? Like Tricia Lunsky said, we have a lot of business owners downtown. These people pay taxes. These people help us fund our police department. And last I checked, the last presentation we were given, there are 78 homeless people here. And I believe there are 78 beds opened at the Mission last night, or close to. And so if you do the math, there are plenty of places, and I want to keep this sound safe. I want to be able to allow my children to ride the bike paths around on their own and know that they are going to be in a safe community and that our police department has the tools to be able to keep us all safe.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the item? Item 3.2? All right, seeing nothing, no more comment. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-2 with Osowski and Veen dissenting.
Whoa, I did not
That was sorry. Ms.
dissent
Berg.
on that.
Berg
Absolutely
and
not. It just flows out now,
Did you get
Mr.
that,
Mayor.
Ms. Storstad?
Yes, I have Berg and Veen.
I was shocked Osowski was on the positive side of a vote for the first time.
All right, moving on to 3.3, public hearing and second reading of ordinance and final approval of a request to amend the zoning map, Southern Estates PUD Amendment Number 18, density increase and parking requirement reduction at Cardinal Point, located 2150 47th Avenue South.
All right, thank you. Same process. We'll open up the public hearing at item 3.3. If anybody's here to speak on item 3.3. All right, I don't think they're coming up to speak. They're leaving. All right, seeing no one, we're going to close the public hearing portion on 3.3, and we'll look for any motions or comment from council.
Comment.
Yeah, Ms. Osowski, please.
I guess I'm just really in disagreement of changing the density of an area, and also the parking is really concerning to me. I do not like living in an area where there is not always adequate parking. I think that us stepping back on this is a bad idea, so thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Osowski. Any further comments or motions? President Sandy, please.
I would agree with Ms. Osowski. I think this changing the density on the whim sets a bad precedent. I just don't think that we have ordinances and our zoning requirements for a reason. I personally don't think that just because these folks want to make additional money on some of the rooms that they planned when they built their facility, to me, it just doesn't make sense. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, President Sandy. What was Mr. Brooks, what was the density increase that they were asking for?
4 units.
And what's the current number of units there?
Thank you, Mayor. It was, I want to say it's 251 units total. They're looking to go up to 255 units total. In terms of the parking, I certainly understand. We have done visual looks at the apartment complex, checking Sunday night, Tuesday night as well, and the parking has been adequate. With the way they have it set up, there is good surrounding area in terms of where people enter. It's kind of 4 buildings set up on that structure, although it does look like one. And so there's entry points all around, so they're always close to parking. And we haven't seen the spillover onto the street, because that's certainly something that we were cognizant of as well. So you would actually have to go further to go out to the street to enter into the building. It's much more convenient to stay within the parking lot, and they do have adequate parking. So certainly understand the issue, though. We do continue to monitor those things.
All right, any further comments or motions on the item?
Make a motion.
I'll move approval.
All right, we'll give Vice President Weigel, got a motion approved, second from Mr. Friedolfs. Got a motion, a second. Do we have any further comment? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5-2 with Osowski and Sandy dissenting. Absolutely. That's all we have for item 3. We'll move on to item 4, citizen comments as they relate to action items. Ms. Lundmark.
I have 2 comments this evening. Rep. Eric Murphy.
Representative Murphy, the floor is yours, and just like any other citizen, you got 5 minutes, sir.
For the record, Eric Murphy, representative for District 43. Mr. Mayor and President and Vice President of the City Council, as well as honored council members, I come before you today to ask you to table item 5.17. and ideally requesting you to table that until the first meeting in September. A number of constituents have reached out with regards to the proposed project at Ray Richards Golf Course. Their perception is that this change is related to that project. I think it would be ideal for that project to move on through the Planning Commission and through the various and sundry stages prior to changing the vote requirement for the Planning Commission to send forward a positive or negative recommendation to the City Council. And so I respectfully request that you consider tabling that motion or that 5.17 until a later date, ideally in September. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Representative Murphy. Ms. Lundmark.
Dan Kasowski.
Mr. Kasowski, please.
Thank you, Mayor Buchanski, President Sandy, and the rest of the board. Thank you. Mr. Murphy took all my lines already, so he already kind of explained why I'm up here. But I did receive a lot of emails today, and there's a lot of perception that the timing of this has to do with the redevelopment of Ray Richards. It's kind of ironic. It comes out when our planning and zoning meeting is just around the corner. So there's a big perception out here that there's some kind of agenda here going on, and we don't want the perception to happen. I don't know whether it's true or not, but we'd like to also look at, I don't know which way the vote's going to go. I don't have a history on this amendment and how long it's been in the books, and if there's a real issue with it, but we'd like to look at having you guys defer the vote on this for 6 or 7 months until the development of the Ray Richards has been finalized. We don't want that perception that somebody's got an agenda here, I would assume. We don't feel there is, but there is that perception because I got a ton of emails about this item coming up at this time. It's just kind of ironic. I don't know how long it's been in the book, but the timing is pretty poor on it, I think. So I guess we're asking that you guys defer this until the Ray Richards development has been finalized. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, Ms. Lundmark?
Nope, I don't have any others.
All right. All right, with that, we'll move on to action items. We're going to pull 5.6 and 5.17. Any other items that council would like pulled for further discussion this evening?
I'd like 511 pulled, please.
5.7?
Just give a moment there if anybody else had one.
Can I get 514?
Absolutely.
And is 519 pulled?
Nope. You want that one too?
Yep.
All right, any others? So I have us pulling 5.6, 5.7, 5.11, 5.14, and 5.17, and 5.19. Does that sound correct to everybody? All right, so we're looking for a motion then to approve staff recommendation on item 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 5.5, 5.8, 5.9, 5.10, 5.12, 5.13, 5.15, 5.16, and 5.18. Get a motion? Motion from Mr. Veen, second from Mr. Friedolfs. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
5.6, redevelopment of former waste or water treatment plant site.
All right, thank you. We did take in all the questions, had staff working on this quite a bit over the last week, so we've got answers there on there. I'm not going to go over all of them. I was just going to make a couple of points. It might take just 5 minutes, and then we'll open it up ultimately to council to give direction on the path forward. I think one thing I did want to mention, just so people understand what the condition in the water treatment plant has been decommissioned. It is sitting there empty. Electricity was cut off to the building, so there is no fire danger. But with that, you have no air exchanging, so it would be hazardous. Right now, no one can enter the building. You need breathing apparatus or something to enter the building after the last couple of years. It can certainly stay like that. It doesn't need any further remediation in the near term, but I think it's important to understand the condition of it. Why don't you go to the next page, Mr. Phelan? The original timeline started back in 2018, working on a downtown action plan, knowing that the water treatment plant was going to ultimately come down and be decommissioned after the new water treatment plant was built. Really with COVID, everything got really put on hold for about 5 years. And then obviously we started up about 15 months ago, ultimately hiring development strategies. The first, I think, real public meeting was the open house. That included neighbors, that included neighborhood members and input, ultimately leading to what was presented today or last week. A couple of the questions, I'm not going to go over all of them, like I said, but we talked about owner occupancy. I think that's great. I think that's something that we should look for and try to find some in there. I think single-family homes is going to be hard. We did the simple math there. It's 2.7 acres if you don't vacate 3rd Street. You're looking at a $5 million. This doesn't even include the land value, just the demolition. That would cost you roughly $625,000 per lot. I don't think we can sell them for that. If we cut them in half and did 16, we're still looking at $312,500 per lot. Obviously, that's not going to make any fiscal sense unless we're willing to, to massively take a hit. That doesn't include land value. So obviously, there's a trade-off. If you do townhomes, there certainly is the potential to help on that front. Going on to question 2, I think this is one that gets talked about a lot, and it was clearly a very public thing, but we talk about Epic, and obviously they failed to finish that public plaza. That was clearly a mismanagement, within the company that led to bankruptcy. They had roughly 80 properties across Minnesota and North Dakota. They went bankrupt on all those properties. They're dealing with issues. We should remember what was there previously. I think it was the Townhouse Hotel. That was abandoned. I had that property value was in the $4 million range before it was abandoned. By the time it was torn down, it had decreased to about $2.2 million. So that property was only producing $35,000 a year to the property tax base. The 2 completed towers now are not receiving a TIF. That has not been initiated. They're worth about $28 million on the tax rolls and pay $455,000 a year in property taxes. So the public subdivisions are receiving $420,000 more per year than we were with that old hotel. So that was clearly a win, regardless of whether the public plaza gets done. And they are working, a new group is working to fix that. Luckily, a local group that is taking on a lot of risk and wants to make that project right. So we definitely applaud them. A couple of these questions, I think they really, they talk about density. I think, clearly downtown is probably the place we want density. That's been an initiative of not only the past governors, but certainly the city as we move forward. On top of infrastructure, that's the cheapest place to increase density. And you don't want to have too much on any particularly given block, but I think, as we think about apartments and density, that seems to be, at least in the past, the direction we've gone is to put more density downtown to help the small businesses, to help attract everything that's going on down there. We have reduced public space downtown a little bit since Arbor Park has left, and we do have a lot more people, obviously in that area now with some of the other apartments that have been built. Moving along, some of this, I heard traffic was talked about. That would all come as a further study down the line. I don't see concerns over the Point Bridge. There's not activity. There's not jobs that are being created in East Grand Forks. There's not an increase in retail there, so I don't see concern of Point Bridge being overwhelmed by this project, regardless of the density. And then certainly parking is something that's going to have to be reviewed as phase 2, as a developer comes in and does the RFP process. That's going to have to be something that comes in front of us and gets approved. It would be nice beyond the parking here. We've got the county ramp, which is right down the street, which is empty at night. I'm sure they would love to get some additional revenue to help fix the concrete chunks that have been falling down in their parking lot or in their parking ramp. Just a couple of last ones. Flood protection, obviously, any adjustment to that would need to be approved by the Corps, and that would obviously come before us before any final project goes forward. I think, Mr. Phelan, if you want to go, there was 6, concepts that were presented to the steering committee. I see a few members here. Appreciate them being here. There was 3 ultimately that got moved forward. One had a graphic, a conceptual drawing that everybody saw. But I just wanted to highlight one of these also included an apartment, but it included townhomes, which it would eliminate the number of apartments from 437 down to 326, which would eliminate 111 of them there and get us 28 townhomes. We would still, even if there's townhomes and condos, there's still the potential that someone can buy it and rent it out. So whether we wanted to set some type of policy where they weren't allowed to do that, we do have to keep in mind just because they are what would traditionally be viewed as maybe owner occupied, they could still be rented out. Why don't you go down just one more slide? Again, I think this is a direction we can look at going. We have to set this. When they come back as part of Phase 2, it's going to be up to the council. What's the mix? What exactly do we want to finally go out for an RFQ or RFP? If you look at the 5-story apartment with the plaza, that gives you the public space, still has townhomes, still has a tremendous amount of financial sort of return. The property tax would put back $1.4 million per year to the tax rolls after there was some type of incentive to ensure the project got done. You're still seeing a tremendous amount considering the project pays zero today. And then Mr. Phelan, if you just go, I think that last page is 156. It showed that, really the three that were presented. The one on the right was the one that had the conceptual drawing. And then the one in the middle right there is the one that I was highlighting, just to get an idea as they looked at the different factors, the economics, how those would work. The market risk would be the lowest along with number 3, and really follow the policy of the steering committee, the public input. Just food for thought. Ultimately, the council is going to have to decide which direction we can go. We can certainly wait as well. It's been 7 years since the starting of this. And we are short on housing right now. Last 2 years, we've had no permits pulled for apartments, and certainly owner occupied. We need to work to increase that. We're less than 2% right now of vacancy rate in apartments. That's not healthy. That's going to drive the prices up. Hopefully that leads to some people moving into owner occupied, but there's not a ton of inventory in that either. So much work to be done. Just want to thank everyone that helped put this document together. And with that, really want to open up to council to see what their direction is on this project going forward. So
I'd like to motion to receive and file.
Ms. Osowski, you want a motion to receive and file? Do we have a second? Got a second to receive and file? Does anybody want to have further discussion and maybe let us know what receive and file? You just want to put this on the shelf and think about it later, or do you want to?
I guess this wasn't at all what I thought when we first discussed tearing down the water treatment plant. There's a lot of things in here I do not like at all. I do not like the buying of the properties. I think that's unnecessary. Whatever we build there is going to make their property value go up anyways, and maybe they could sell it on their own. I don't think that we need to be doing that. The way that it was presented to me was some grand area of our city. I really want to take into consideration the traffic and the density. And what we were presented 2 weeks ago was not at all what I thought that we were going to get. And I would like us to slow down a little bit. I don't think that we're in any type of hurry to push this down the road as quickly as we are right now. I think we should take more time to really think about it, look at it. I know I was contacted by the Historic Association, and they really had a lot of concerns about it. They said that they voiced those at the open forum meetings, and they still have a lot of concerns. They stated that, when we sold the properties and they had to build the townhomes really across the street, that they had to fit into the neighborhood. And because it is such a very special historic part of our town, I just want to make sure that whatever we build there really is something that fits in. And I don't like the density of the population. I still have concerns about the traffic, and I think that I would like to just slow down a little bit and really look at some of these things and look at what the true potential of this property can be, and not just some grand 15-minute city. That's how I feel a lot about the kind of the direction that people are going with, changing the density, having the businesses on the bottom and things like that. So,
What's a 15-minute city?
You know what a 15-minute city is. It's like a smart city where basically first it turns into, oh, it's so wonderful, you don't need to leave. And then it turns into, oh, why are you leaving? You have everything here. And then it goes into, you can't leave your zone. So, yeah, I do have an issue with 15-minute cities. You're more than welcome to Google it, Mr. Mayor. It's all over Google. So thank you.
So you think this project is an attempt to force people to stay within the site?
I
part of
think,
that?
I think that a lot of these kind of grand apartment complexes, mixed utility units, yeah, are more gearing towards that.
So someone would be forced to live there and they couldn't move?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just
Okay.
saying that you're changing the density of it. You're going to build, I mean, if you even go back and listen to Governor Burgum, he spoke not too much before he left his position of governor. He talked a lot about the sustainable cities and things like that, so.
All right, do you have a process you'd like to follow? You want us to just think about it or
I
come
want
back
us to
in
slow
6
down.
months?
I want us to slow down a little bit, and, I disagree with buying the property. There are a lot of different things that I disagree with, and I would like to see us all be happy with this project this time moving forward. I do want to see something done. I agree 100% with the demo of it, but there's just a lot of things within this that I do not agree with, so thank you.
All right, thank you. It does have a density of 0. There are 0 people living there, so an increase of 1 would be an increase of density.
I
Keep that in
understand,
mind.
Mr. Mayor.
Any further comments before we? Mr. Veen, you got seniority. Sorry, Mr.
Okay.
Friedel, so let him go first.
Well, I wanted to start out by saying I was definitely a proponent for this process. I think we needed to go out and do some research, do some investigations, and find out what should be the best direction for moving forward. I've been especially concerned about the location. I think this location is historic. It's got a view shed that's unmatched. It oversees the fork in the river. It's got some of the history of the city with it. And with that, I felt like we need to make sure that we look at this as a very special way and have I think, a super model of how we should move forward. And so the process I thought was good. I'm probably a little concerned with the outcome because we ended up with an apartment complex, a big one, but apartment complex that has some access to the river, but I don't think it utilizes the location to the level that I would have liked to have seen it go to. The question is, I don't know what that is. So I'm not here to say it should have been one thing or another. I've often used the example, and I'm not asking us to go back, but when you had the Children's Museum, it was a destination location that was at a specific area that would have brought, I think, value to it. And is there something like that we could come back and try to look at this site? So I like to just step back, take the information from the report, and try to look and address maybe more thoroughly what additional options might be available for us to occupy that space down the road. Not to kill it, it needs to be done. There's no urgency, I don't believe, but let's take a look at it. I mean, Mayor, you talked about the flood protection. They're going to have to figure it out. I didn't think the diagrams was what I was looking for with adding earthen levees, but that'll be taken care of, right? The traffic here, I'm not worried about the Point Bridge. I'm probably more worried about Minnesota and 4th and the elementary school and 4th and Belmont Road. And the parking, I think, a little more substance to that. I've always liked what I've heard with owner-occupied. I love that concept. But we also are up against the issue of what's the affordability to be on the site. I do agree the old water plant needs to be taken down. And to do that is going to take an engineered demolition plan with all of the infrastructure that surrounds that water plant. You're going to have to engineer a demolition of some sort. So anyway, I think it's a matter of timing, and we've heard a lot of feedback. I'd love to hear more about what we might be able to do. Thank you.
Thank you. I know Mr. Veen was on the committee that proposed this. You were also on there, Ms. Berg. Do you have any comments or insights from the process? Obviously, there was different, I hope that people were able to make comments while the process was going, because ultimately that was the committee that brought this forward. Ms. Berg?
Yeah, there was a lot of opportunity for people to provide input throughout the meetings. It really started that way. I would prefer us to not just file this, I would like us to see, and because how are we going to get the answers of the traffic, of the flood wall, of the various questions that we have without moving forward and exploring? And so I'd like to take that step to look into that. This was just a concept. It's not the end-all, be-all, what was presented last week. It's an idea, and it sounds like the majority of the council didn't like that specific idea. So we have opportunity to refine and renew that concept and give more input, and I'd like to see us continue to do that.
Thank you. Mr. Phelan, could you just give us, what would the process be? I mean, if we approve this, is there other chances to give input to stop it if it's not what we like? What's the risk? I know Ken always likes the risk matrix. Give us your risk matrix on this. What's our risk now and moving forward? And what's the off-ramp, so to speak?
Yep. Thank you, Mayor Bochansky. I think we're at a real low risk at this point, and I know you have all these questions, and really the intent of this concept was to move forward to phase 2, which would start answering some of these various questions. And obviously, we've gotten feedback that this council would rather see more ownership and less rental, if feasible. You'd like to see traffic studies. You'd like to see a utility master plan. You'd like to see more work with the Corps of Engineers. You'd like to see a variety of those things. And I think that was the intent of accepting this, but then to move forward with all those things that you wanted to proceed on. And as I was thinking earlier, and not much different than what we did with the Ultra Sports Complex. If we had stopped along the way, we wouldn't be looking at a groundbreaking here this spring. We would have stopped probably about a year ago. And again, I guess I trust the process. I trust the city council. I trust moving forward incrementally. And when things don't make sense ultimately, the city council is always going to stop it. We get that. We show up here every Monday, and we know that city council has a stop. You're not going to do anything that would harm the city of Grand Forks. However, I think to move forward with further answers would be important. I think that's why the number one motion is just to accept it. We agree this. Not everyone's going to agree, but it's a conceptual report. Number 2 was really asking to keep going with development strategies for up to $100,000 for over the next probably couple years to help us as city staff facilitate phase 2 in the development to answer all those questions. And as part of that process, that was really what number 2 was about. Number 3, and really what we wanted to do so nobody came back later in the acquisition of those 4 properties, is that we did engage to see what their want to sell their properties. We came back with 2 of the 4 that we think were within the ballpark at least. And the other importance of those projects or those properties, they were nearest the water treatment plant. So again, that was another option, not saying that you had to, but so no one came back here 2 years from now and says, I don't know why this, city administration never offered those up as sale. So just to say that we did some work, you don't have to do. Number 3, and really, when we come back to city council, it's not that, we're hoping that when we come here and present things that you add further value to what we're presenting, ultimately. So when we show up here at the podium, it's not us versus them. It's really, here's what we think is best, but we really want your feedback so we can continue to refine and better the process. Number 4 was to that point of the important part of understanding the concept, and the mayor showed those 3 concepts of that we showed there, the 3, 4, and 5. Really, that helps inform if we would move forward with a RFQ to hire an engineering firm that would do the site mitigation and demolition, that they would know within this range, that's what we're planning to do. And so when they mitigated the property and they then proposed to go out and bid the demolition, they would understand what kind of project we want to do. And that's going to impact how in depth we're going to demolish this water treatment plant. And as you probably can imagine, it's as high as the water treatment plants, it's as much in the ground. And so the further you go into the ground trying to demo this site, the more money we're going to spend. We did set aside, I think, $5 to $6 million. So that helped to inform that process too. That was what number 4 was. And then number 5, we have carried to date, since it is the water plant site, we did hold off as part of the water plant redevelopment on the west side of the city. We did not demo the site because we wanted to make sure we were thoughtful and understanding. And I think, as I talked about last week, thankfully we've been successful in this town despite a pandemic and all the things that things have gone so well in Grand Forks, we're in a position where we're ready to redevelop the water treatment plant in the next couple of years. We should be really proud of that because we sometimes take that for granted. Not any town USA would have all the great things we have going on in Grand Forks and would even be in this position that we are in. So we try to break it down to 5 things to move this forward. The city staff and the city administrations are going to be involved in answering all those questions, and those would all come back to under phase 2, along with public input and all the things. So our concern, the mayor and I and the city administration, if we just receive and file, say things are going too fast, we heard that with the Ultra Sports Complex, we're not going to move anything forward, and we won't know anything more than we know right now. And I know that comes with the element of trust, and I recall Council President Sandy, even on the Ultra Sports, well, you know, I don't want to let down Council President Sandy. So when he says, because that doesn't do any of us any good, because it's painful. It's really painful. So when we come back here, we want answers. And we want to feel like, you know, we really hit the mark on phase 2. My concern is that we can pause, but nothing's going to happen, and we're going to lose time and momentum, and that's what we don't want to do. So that's my thoughts on those 5 motions.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. I'm okay with disappointing President Sandy, but that's okay. Mr. Friedhouse, I cut you off earlier, so I'll let
Just
you.
real quick, so I think receiving and just filing is a poor idea. I think just like Ms. Berg said, I think we need to keep this thing moving forward. At any time we see it's coming off the tracks, it's too expensive, it's just not feasible, we can't get the owner-occupied houses, we can stop that. We're not putting shovels in the ground, we're looking at everything we need to do. I think just like you said, the sports complex, we wouldn't even be talking about it today if we would have stopped it. I think there's still a lot of questions on this, but getting to the next step is very important, and I think that's the way I'm going to vote today.
President Sandy, please.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, I think a discussion about the finances and an honest discussion right now about what we actually want on that facility when Mr. Veen wants discussion, and I agree, I think we should talk about it because in actuality, we're the ones that are going to decide whatever gets built there. I think we have some fundamental questions that we all as a group need to answer. For example, if it's going to cost between $5 and $6 million to demolish the current water treatment plant, do we as a body, are we going to require that we get our money back? Or is the city covering that cost? I don't know where people feel about that, but if ultimately we want to recoup those dollars, and rather than having all of the taxpayers of Grand Forks pay for it, we can't, as the mayor said, we can't do that if we're just doing straight up single-family housing, because, as he said, even if we go high-density single-family and get 16 units in there, which I think would be hard to sell anyway, you're starting at a cost of $300,000 per lot. You haven't put a shovel in the ground. I don't think people are clamoring to live in that spot so much that they're going to pay, 2.5 times market value, or probably closer to 5 times market value for those lots. So if that's the case, so if we agree that we want to get our money back, it's going to have to be a dense development. That's all there is to it. I think secondarily, do we want to pay for a public plaza? The only way to pay for a public plaza is to provide a TIF, at least in our current situation. If we want a public plaza there, I don't think Mr. Tweeten, although he's a very kind man, I don't think out of the goodness of his heart he's going to drop $10 million in our lap and build a public plaza. Do we want a public plaza or not? And if we want a public plaza, somehow we have to pay for it. The only way, again, single-family homes, public plaza doesn't make sense. But if we're going to build a large development, we could make it work out by using the taxpayer, the taxes, the real estate taxes that we would collect off the building could go instead of to the coffers of all the taxing entities, it could go to pay for the public plaza. I think we do also have a problem, in my opinion, with option number 4. I'm pretty confident that if I wanted to purchase a condo downtown, if I'm going to be downtown and buy a condo, I'm not going to want to look at a 4-story apartment building right in front of me, knowing that the apartment dwellers get a great view of the river and I don't. And so in this current situation, unless we're going to flip-flop and go condos taller, and even then, I'm not sure, based upon history of Kingsview condos, I'm not sure people are willing to spend that kind of money. I think Epic right now, downtown, I don't think those high-end condos are like flying off the shelf.
They're all apartments now.
Right, yeah, see. So we have fundamental problems. I think if we want the public plaza and we want to get our $6 million back, the only way it works is with high-density apartments. And it is what it is. I don't want to see high-density apartments there. So I'll go back to when this process started. I wanted to list the land for sale and get rid of it because I think this is a loser, because I don't know of any way we can make this work. So I agree, Mr. Phelan, you got lots of very good points, and you never disappoint me. I don't know where to go with this, because I fundamentally disagree with using taxpayer dollars to build public amenities. I don't think we should have to do that unless we as a group say, this is the sort of thing that really makes sense. I don't like paying for part of softball complexes. I don't like paying for driving ranges. I don't necessarily like paying for public plazas. I think that developers, if they need a public plaza, the developers should build it themselves. That's my deal on the whole thing. I'm gonna go along with receiving and filing, but we really should take a hard look at what are we gonna do. And unless this group, 4 people in this group come up with a great idea and say we're all on the same page, I don't know how we go anywhere. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, President Sandy. Well summarized. Ms. Lunsky, please.
Before I was on the council, I thought when the new water treatment was being built that there was something in that budget to take this water treatment plant down. Is that not true?
No, I think, well, let Mr. Phelan answer that.
We always had a drinking water SRF loan, Councilmember Lunsky, as part of that. So we've been carrying that forward. We did run out of, the plant is generally a 50-50 state versus local share. We did run out of the state cost share. And so I don't know if it would have been eligible at the time too, but it was grant funded at the time, but we ran out of money on the new plant itself.
Can you explain why the takedown 5 to 6 million differs if whatever is built there? Like if a big massive building is built on that site, why does it cost more to tear the building down?
Council, Mayor Buczynski and Councilmember Lunsky, I think we have so many utilities under there, and with the backfill and what we intend to do, I think the other thing is part of the concept. Are we going to go look at 3rd Street? There's lots of utilities on 4th Street too, and so depending on how are we going to put underground parking and all those things, it really means a difference with how we're going to demo and mitigate that site. I think the other thing is, if you went forward with that, you would be able to engage a professional on how best to do all those things that we want to do. Currently we don't have anybody. The estimate we have was from the previous construction manager before they, exited off the project. We did ask, and we've been inflating that cost a little bit over time.
And so I don't think, President Sandy, that the Epic condos can really be pointed out. I don't think they could be sold. I've been trying to move downtown for 6 years, so I don't think that's a fair call that condos aren't. But I did want to add that Ms. Berg and I are trying to have a ward meeting in later June to talk to the neighbors, kind of get a feel. This project just does feel really rushed. I think the traffic study for me is hugely important. It's gonna, if 400 apartments come into that neighborhood, it's really going to devastate my ward and a few other wards with traffic. So I think this project just seems like it was shown to us last week and just really pushed ahead, especially after we just approved 4 large apartment buildings the meeting before that. So I agree that we shouldn't just hit pause, but I think we're moving a little too fast.
Maybe Mayor Bochansky, and it sounds like it's going a certain way, but really the intent, and I learned this also from Councilmember Vian, is part of the process of going through the RFQ and the RFP process is that's very minimal cost for the city of Grand Forks. It's a cost on the private entities or in the teams that are going to propose. The other huge benefit for us is that we're going to get lots of great ideas. They see what our concept is, but without moving forward through that process, we won't know what we don't know. And so all the things we're concerned about with traffic and infrastructure and home ownership versus rental and how we could situate the building, and we won't know some of those great ideas because we'll have never gone through an RFQ process, we have never gone through an RFP process, and none of that commits us to anything. But what individuals are going to want as part of that Q and P process is they want to know that this is a good faith process. So if we spend tens of thousands of dollars putting together proposals, that this city council is earnest and genuine, that they are trying to do something. And so we're willing to share our best ideas about that. And if it doesn't really work out, whether we get through the RFQ or the RFP process, it doesn't quite work out, we'll be a lot more knowledgeable than we are today about different ways that we can do it. And so that's why I think is the value of the process of continuing through the process, because all the questions that people are going to have, we won't really have answers to.
Thank you. I think the only thing to point out is those other projects, none of them have received any approvals. They just had a pre-application is all that they've been approved. They still have to apply, building permits. They're probably 2 years minimum out if they go. So just because we approve the pre-application doesn't mean those other projects are getting built or anytime soon necessarily. All right, Mr. Veen?
Mayor.
Otherwise we got, yeah, Mr. Weigel. I'm going to jump to Mr. Weigel first and back to you, Mr. Veen. He hasn't spoken on the item. Mr. Weigel, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I think everybody's brought up some really good points on both sides on whether to receive and file and do nothing, or at least move forward with something. I'm in favor with at least moving forward on the demolition side. I think we've seen some of the bids that we've had come back are very favorable to the city as far as the amount of money that we're paying on projects. I think that the longer we wait to at least demo it, I think the more expensive it's going to become. We know that prices go up every single year on nearly all construction projects, and I think we're at a good time to at least look at and explore how we go forward with demolition. And so I would like to at least see some of that go forward as far as the demolition side goes.
Thank you, Vice President Weigel. I would just caution the only issue with that is not, really not knowing what's going to be there next. Knowing the exact, for example, if you're going to have underground parking and other things, if you're going to have Third Street as part of this project or not knowing some of those things is going to that's going to influence your demolition. So I think we have to be cautious on demolishing until we at least have some idea or some direction that we're going to go on it. So, certainly we could, but I don't know. Mr. Phelan, is that reasonable?
I think you're right. In this case, we just highlight is under 4. We're just asking to authorize us to go advertise to get a firm that can help support us. So again, we're just advertising. We'll select. We'll come back here with an agreement, and you can determine at that point, do you want to move forward with an agreement with this firm? But maybe at least in the meantime, we've picked a firm so that when we are ready, we've gotten that checked off the list. And so some of these can we check something off the list?
You're talking on the demolition side?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, we're just picking a firm. We're going to have to come back with an agreement. You can stop it right there again. Again, it's another city council stop point.
I'm guessing President Sandy is going to want an RFP on that demolition, so that would eliminate your thoughts there, because they're going to need to know exactly what they're doing then. But, all right. Well, we do have a motion in a second. I got Veen, and then we'll go to President Sandy.
No, I just wanted to kind of talk like you just did about the demolition and how that process should look at, because there's more utility, it's just like a spider web of all the utilities that are underneath there. And depending on what you do above it will impact what you need to do below. But that all should be appropriately removed and demolished as need be. And I don't know if we know the exact way to do that. I mean, for sure, 3rd Street's going to have to be replaced. Once you get in there, the street's gone. I'm going to say 4th Street's going to be gone. If we go the public plaza, we wouldn't replace 3rd Street, probably. We would leave it. If we wait to do that, we'll have to put something back temporarily. So I like the idea of doing the demolition, but unfortunately, I think it's probably going to be tied to the solution we have as we go forward. That would be the only downfall to moving forward. And when I looked at receive and file, if the receive and file for me means receive and file and don't do anything, I got a problem. I still think we need to do what we've talked about, sit back, maybe look at some other options about how we might go forward, but I'm going to still be fully supportive of doing the project. It's just, I think we need to do the receive and file at this point in time and get more feedback internally.
Thank you. President Sandy.
My last comment that I was going to make was regarding Cardinal Point. Tonight, we approved 4 additional units at Cardinal Point and gave them a waiver of 46 parking spots, but they still have, how many parking spots? 563 parking spots, right, Mr. Brooks? 563 parking spots for 240 or 255 apartments. We're talking about building 400 apartments and having 300 parking spots plus a bunch of commercial space that requires parking. Again, I just don't, these are all questions that need to be answered. I just don't know how it works. I just can't wrap my arms around how we can put this sort of a development in there and have it something that ultimately works for the public. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, no problem. I know Franklin on 4th had 126 units and 90 spots, and that seems to be managing. Food for thought. All right, we've got probably enough discussion on the item. We got a motion to receive and file. So with that, I would be, if there's no further comment, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Did you, which side were you? I didn't get your side.
Aye. Receive and file.
Receive and file. So we got receive and file at the 5 and 2 with Berg and Weigel dissenting. Thank you.
5.7, amendment to city code related to towing.
All right, Ms. Berg, did you have any comments on item 5.7?
Yes, I have been looking at some Facebook posts, and there's a lot of concern that citizens have regarding just taking away the cap of various fees. And so just wanted to bring that to people's attention.
Thank you. I think originally they just asked to set the prices higher, and then we move forward with removing the caps altogether, which is more similar to probably what other cities do. But it was more than they had asked for as a towing company themselves. Mr. Veen?
Yeah, and as I best recall, back when they did put a cap was because there was a problem of people being excessive in what they were charging. And then the people whose car and vehicle was towed had no choice but to pay what was probably an exorbitant price. So we tried to manage that by setting a limit that we could do. So I'm understanding what Ms. Berg said. We could accept the changes that have already been proposed, but just also increase the limit to something. It doesn't mean they have to charge the limit, but make sure that we have a limit so that anybody who gets their car towed isn't just stuck with whatever that amount might be.
Yeah, I think the primary company that is doing those towings right now had set, some caps that they thought were reasonable, and then we could do a yearly. That was one of the other options. But ultimately, I guess that's up to council if they want to remove the caps at all or go with what that towing company had recommended. And we could reset the fees. I think, Mr. Gossett, why don't you go over those 2 original ordinances if you're okay? I know it ended up being a third, but there was just a nuance between the original 2 proposed ones versus what came forward.
Yeah, and I don't have the number. The direction that was given was remove the cap completely, and that's what's been presented. And we added a provision, and I think it was a comment about there'd have to be a specific request made by the owner of the lot to avoid the towing company just driving around and towing somebody because they didn't have a tag. The parking lot owner would actually have to make the request before the towing company would do it. So that, I think, alleviated some of the issues with respect to it alleviated the issues with respect to how somebody might get towed. I don't have the numbers right in front of me as to what the original proposals were.
Looks like Ms. Lundmark maybe you can give some light on what the original two were, and not that that's the direction we're going, but I guess for maximal context.
On the staff report, after the staff report, there is the original letter requesting the fees from Interstate Towing. I think we may have modified one slightly, like for shoveling. There was a slight change in that ordinance. I could pull it up quick here from the COW meeting, because they were both of those ordinances were on the COW agenda. If you guys wanted to look at that, we could pull it up on the.
Well, I guess if the council wants that, if you just want to move forward, that's certainly her. President Sandy, please.
Yeah, the impound fee was $250. Dolly fee went from 50 to 100. After hours release fee stayed at 25. Early release fee increased from 60 to 100. Labor provisions added charges for additional services such as winching, shoveling, and go-jacks to $50. And there were some increases, similar increases to heavy vehicle towing rates and storage rates.
And those were all maximums, so that wasn't the rate that had to be charged. There would still be some market influences on that. I guess we'll open up to council if they want to make any adjustments or go with it as is.
Mayor Bachensky?
Yes, Vice President Weigel, please.
Just a quick comment. Ms. Osowski and I talked a little bit about this last week. There's very few businesses where government puts a cap on what they can charge for the service that they provide. I don't know that we do that with any other industry in the city of Grand Forks. And so I'm in favor of removing the caps. Interstate towing is a big part of the community. I see their stuff everywhere giving back, and I don't worry about them gouging people, maybe like some other companies used to do. And like Mr. Gostad said, this is only relates to private property towing. So if private property wants the vehicle removed, they have to contact Interstate, have the vehicle removed. It's not something they're going out fishing for. It doesn't affect vehicles that are towed by law enforcement because that's already set through a contract and price. And so I'd like to make a motion to move forward based on the recommendation of the committee of the whole from last week.
I'll second.
All right, we got a motion from Vice President Weigel, a second from Ms. Osowski. Any further discussion? President Sandy, do you have anything? No? Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-2 with Berg and Veen dissenting. All right, we'll move on.
Okay, 5.11, sign appeal at Memorial Village, located 2625 Second Avenue North.
All right, Mr. Brooks, and I know Ms. Osowski, I believe, may have had some questions on this one. So, do you want just a
I can
review, or
go,
do you got-
no, we don't
okay.
need to review it. I guess when I looked at it, it's such a pretty building. I really enjoy the building that they built there. I know I'm not a big supporter of Memorial Village 1 and 2, but it does look nice, the brick on the outside and everything. And I would hate to see it ruined by a digital sign. And that thing is big, you know. It's not. I thought what Mr. Opp did at the softball fields with the nice monument sign, I thought that looked really nice. But this is a huge digital sign, and I mean, it almost reminds me of one of those billboards that we have a moratorium on right now. I disagree with putting a giant electronic sign up there right on Columbia. I think it would be a big distraction, and we've already had discussions about the electronic billboards that have been going up all over. I don't understand why we'd let UND do it.
All right, thank you, Ms. Osowski. Mr. Friedel.
Just clarification that according to that, it's not going to be for advertisements, it's for UND events only.
Right, but it's still a giant flashing billboard, basically. It's the same thing. It's
not
All
selling.
right, we'll go. If you have
I know,
comments, we're not
but-
going to do it back and forth. Any further comments, Mr. Friedel? No? Or any other comments from council, comments or motions on the item?
Move approval.
Second.
Got a motion to approve from Vice President Weigel, second from Ms. Berg. Any further comments with that motion on the floor? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-2 with Osowski and Sandy dissenting.
5.14, introduction of ordinance dedicating right-of-way and preliminary approval plat of Burkholz 8th Edition located 1800 block of South 42nd Street.
All right. I don't remember if this was Mr. Veen. Did you have a question on this one, please?
I have a couple questions, but I'm more inclined to probably discuss those with you between now and final reading. I think it's time that this area was developed. I mean, it's been sitting there for 40 years or whatever, and we're finally getting it done. I'm a little concerned about the utilities and how that's going to be serviced, both traffic access and probably sanitary and storm, to make sure that that's being addressed. But let me ask them, between you and probably Mr. Grasser, and be ready to come back for the second reading. That'd be okay.
Better than me trying to answer sanitary sewer questions, which I'm always happy to attempt to do. But I will say this is probably a good place to put this information out there, that a week from tomorrow, they are having their neighborhood meeting, and it'll be here in this location at 5:30. So we'll be sending out an email on that as well for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks.
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion to approve from Mr. Veen. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Ms. Berg. Any further discussion on item 5.14? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
5.17, introduction of ordinance to amend section 18-1001, subsection 4 of the Grand Forks City Code to require simple majority for zoning and amendment approvals.
All right, Mr. Brooks, why don't you give us some background on this one, and then we'll open up to council.
Sure, Mayor. So on this item, this has been discussed quite a few times over the years. I have had a question of whether we've actually ever had a situation where there was a vote in favor of something that failed, I guess, whether it had been approved. And we did, in my time here anyway, we did have one that there was I want to say it was a 4-3 or a 5-2 vote in favor of a project, but it was a failed motion. So we've taken a look at some other cities. I think Bismarck and Fargo, they do not have a similar piece where we need to have a supermajority. And in this case, supermajority would mean 6-1 to receive a vote of approval on a rezoning. So text amendments are 4-3, simple majorities, ironically. So your vote on this one needs a simple majority. But if there was a zoning map change, something like that, it would require a supermajority. So happy to try to answer anything else that may come up.
Sounds good. And I appreciate that. I think we've got a lot of projects. You've got a group here that, obviously they're concerned. They don't want that project to go forward. They see the benefit in keeping it the way it is. I think we've got projects coming up, like Epitome Energy, like the water treatment plant. We have to decide how to zone that at some point, and we can't even decide on what that even looks like or if we should demolish it. So that's obviously going to be a challenge to have a zoning decision on something like that. So I know we've had projects in the past where this has been questioned, so I think it's good to look at. It was probably designed more for a 14-person council. I know we've had some discussions on maybe it's not a simple majority, maybe there's another avenue to go, but it's certainly not, intended to impact one project over another. It's fortunate we've got so many projects going. But with that, it's ultimately council's decision on which route they want to go, or they can certainly wait on this one as well. Mr. Veen, please.
Mr. Brooks, I'm trying to think, when I first came on the council, we had, I think, the vote maybe that you're talking about, which had to do on North 20th Street by
That's
Hughes.
right. Yeah, that's the one. Yep.
Yeah. And at that point, I think I was one of those that made sure we didn't have the supermajority to make it pass, because my thought then, as it is today, that your zoning is a property right, and you shouldn't be able to easily change zoning for somebody if they're not in favor of it. And if you remember at that time, a lot of people in the community came out against that, even though the council voted in favor. It wasn't a supermajority and it failed. And I still believe that today. I think that you should not take that right away. You wouldn't want somebody deciding to easily change the zoning next, right beside you in where you live, if you think of it all personally. And I actually thought the project they were proposing was better, but I had to fall back on what I felt were the rights of the existing property owners they bought understanding that was the zoning, and to force a zoning change on them, I didn't think was fair, and that's why I have an issue with this requested change. And it's been this way for, I don't know how many decades, but it's been this for a long time.
Yeah, I assume since '87 when the change in code came in, but I haven't researched to see how long.
Yeah, I think it served us well.
Thank you. Any other comments on it?
How about the one we received online?
Yeah, please.
Sherry emailed us a question about it online. Do we answer that? Should I read it?
Sure.
It just said, would the city please identify the individuals who have proposed this change?
Well, I think that just
City
happened.
staff.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep.
City staff?
Yeah, and it's, well, I don't make all those decisions on my own, right? We've had lots of discussions through the years, but yes, it was city staff that brought it forward.
President Sandy, please, and then Ms. Berg.
Thank you. I think to Mr. Veen's point, zoning is probably one of the most important things that, as a body, that we do. That's why we actually have another body that meets first to talk about it, to make sure that we have all the information and we're doing it right. I think, with all due respect, Mr. Brooks, when you presented this to planning and zoning, it was presented as their process was correct and ours was wrong, when in actuality, our process is correct and theirs is wrong. They should also need a higher requirement in order to change zoning. I would propose that we implement stricter requirements on our Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as the ability to change the ordinance. So I don't agree that we should go to a simple majority on zoning issues. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, President Sandy. We can certainly leave as is. Oh, Ms. Berg, why don't you go first?
Yeah. 6-1, like a supermajority, sounds like a very large number, and I hear the importance of property rights. I'd be open to something as a 5-2, but not where we could end up having just a one vote off type of situation.
Well, one thing we had mentioned is you could do a simple majority plus one, so you would need a 5-2, or if there's only 5 members, you would need a 4-1 at that point. Right now, the way that the ordinance sits, if one of the members isn't here, you would still need 6 votes. So you would, if there was one person absent, it would require a 6-0 vote. So I do think there's some issues in that. I think having it weighted makes sense, but I don't know that the way that the ordinance is written right now is probably the best way to go. If you had only 5 members that were here, this couldn't pass, because the way it's set up in the ordinance, it needs a supermajority of the council, not just the members that are here, of the council as a whole. So I think that at a minimum, maybe that could change where it's supermajority. Otherwise, looking at a simple majority plus 1 requirement would at least keep it heavier. And then we could talk about, does that make sense to make that change as well in planning and zoning? And then you've got something that's more streamlined.
I can comment on the way it sets up is that if less than 3/4 of the council members are in attendance, then you need a unanimous vote. So if my math is right, if there is, I think, 1 person missing, you might even need, or is it 2? You need a unanimous vote, if my math is right.
So you could do a 5, okay, but if you have
But
one
you need
person
everybody.
missing, you would have to have a 6-0.
Yeah, but if you don't have 3/4 present, then everybody that is present at the council meeting has to approve. It becomes even more problematic in that sense.
Yeah. All right, well,
Mayor, quick question.
yep, Vice President Weigel, please.
Maybe for Mr. Gosted or Mr. Phelan, is there any other votes besides this one? Besides, I believe, if we want to add something to the agenda the night of, I think that has to be unanimous. But besides that, is there any other votes that require this much of somebody in favor in order to get something done?
I think to override a mayoral veto requires a supermajority. I think it's 5 if my memory serves me. That's the only one that comes to mind, Councilmember Weigel.
You guys aren't taking that one away, are you? Might need to use that.
Yeah, how many votes does it take to change that ordinance?
5, because I could veto it. All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may?
President Sandy, please.
With all due respect to Representative Senator Murphy, thank you, Representative Murphy. I'll move, although I think I'd likely be in favor of moving to a majority plus one. I think we don't have to do this today, so I'd move that we table until September, and then we bring it back for further discussion, and that'll give us some time to think about it as well.
All right, so we've got a motion, just 1 second, motion to postpone.
Postpone, to
Comfortable with
postpone,
that?
thank you.
Until the first council meeting, I'm not going to pull my calendar up, it'll be the first council meeting in September, and we got a second. You okay with that verbiage as postponed, Ms. Osowski? Yes. Okay, thank you. Do you have a motion, a second? Any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, then 5.19, introduction ordinance to amend Chapter 18 Land Development Code, Article 4, 18-04, non-conforming uses of the Grand Forks City Code.
All right, Mr. Veen, was this yours, or who was interested in 519?
I had written down Mr. Veen.
All right, well, give us some context, and then we'll see if it
Sure.
refreshes his memory.
Yeah, I did do that.
just
Now
like that, there you
And now
go.
I remember why. I got one word here that brings it forth. Yes.
Do you want a condensed
Yeah,
version of the presentation?
would you make a presentation on it? I'm trying to think, and here was the question, was it Representative Vetter who had brought this one through? This has been on the docket at the state for at least 3 different bienniums, if I remember right.
Probably more than that at this point,
4
yeah.
bienniums,
Yeah.
and after 4 bienniums, it finally passed.
Correct.
And we've been against it before.
We have, there was some language changed, and that's a good segue into it, but I'll start and kind of explain for folks what it is before we get too much into the weeds. So what non-conforming means is that it was legally built to code changed, making it non-conforming. So there's 3 different types of non-conforming uses or non-conformities. There's use, in which case, again, it was legally built, zoning code changed, no longer built. Your commercial and your residential districts are probably your most commonly understood. The non-conforming structure, the property was built to code, however, zoning code changed and maybe required a higher setback away from the road, making that structure non-conforming. And then there's non-conforming lots, meaning that we established minimum lot sizes in the 80s, or maybe a little bit before that too. But that minimum lot size, previously okay, code changed, no longer okay. We expect a bigger lot size in that district now going forward. And so those are our different types that we have primarily in town. And so the issue we've run into locally, and to Vetter's point, was particularly with our small lots, our residential small lots. We have quite a few in our older neighborhoods, small affordable homes. They're getting caught in the financial transactions because if you have a non-conforming status, typically you cannot receive financing. You don't qualify for home loans because of insurance, because there's a caveat buried deep in there that if you must be able to rebuild your home in its current footprint to qualify for financing. And our code would say, no, you can't because you don't meet these minimum standards. So to Representative Vetter's point, he, for many bienniums, has been asking for a statewide code to require residential to be allowed to be rebuilt in its current structure and current format. Grand Forks has typically been opposed to that. However, there's been some caveats included with that, which if the property is encroaching into right-of-way, encroaching onto a neighbor, doesn't have access, there's other parameters we can confine and kind of, because if those things exist, we don't want that property to continue. If a building is 10 feet into an alleyway, we do want that to transition out and maintain that right away. So there are check marks that have been put in place that you'll see throughout our draft code that we've implemented. I tried to highlight where we inserted the HB 1500 language within the code update just to make everybody aware how we're trying to meet that new state code. So was there any particular question you had?
No, I couldn't remember the exact detail, but it was a concern over the last few years of what the request was.
It was essentially, our code was prohibiting certain residential properties from being sold and financed, is what it, in simplified terms, came down to. We're trying to amend the code, one, to make it easier to read, because if you're in this section of code, you're telling somebody what they can't do with their property. They can't rebuild it, they can't use it to their own expectations. So we wanted to make sure this was tightened up so it's easily understood, and then also to comply with the HB 1500, that state code that passed too.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll move approval.
All right. We got a motion, President Sandy. Was that Berg or Osowski? Ms. Berg seconded it. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. All right, that's it for action items. We'll move on to 6 information items.
6.1, investment portfolio summary as of April 30th.
Thank you. We'll receive and file that, Ms. Storstad.
Yes, thank you.
Item number 7, approval and minutes of minutes and bills.
And 7.1 is your vendor listing.
Anybody want to pay the bills?
Motion approved.
Got a motion to approve from Ms. Berg, second from Ms. Lunsky. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously.
And finally, 7.2 minutes from May 5th.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve from Berg, second from Ms. Lunsky. They're workhorses right now. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 8, citizen comments. Is there related to the general nature?
I have one, Dennis Denault.
Mr. Denault, please.
Let's do it. No swearing.
Thanks, folks, for letting me come up and speak. I came here for mainly 3 issues, but I'm just going to bring up 2 and save a little seed for 2 weeks from now. Back when we had our previous mayor, people are forgetting that there was kidnappings in Grand Forks, even at the school. My memory, I'm pushing 70, but I can still remember about as far as the little kids in town here with all these strangers coming here. And there was one for sure that was near a school. With all these strangers in town, they don't want to work. Go to Walmart and get $16 an hour for standing around doing nothing. There's child molesters and rapists. And believe me, with all the vandalism and theft coming from right next door to me, from Sandy's friends in the printing shop. In fact, Thursday night at 10:06, they shot off a 380. This was no 22 out the window. 25 years ago, I worked down in Clear Lake, Iowa. We're putting up a generator with ASCO Hennis. This is down in Clear Lake, Iowa, Mason City, Iowa. And of course, that's where Buddy Holly, that was his last flight. And I got there late in town. I got a bite to eat at Perkins and fell asleep. And in the late night, an officer tapped my window, and he says, "You can't sleep here." I said, "No problem." So I went to the job site. Went to work the next morning there. But the next day, I was really impressed how clean that town is. And that's because there wasn't any bums and druggists. And that's on a very, very major drug route, I-35. And this is 25 years ago, and it was very clean. And if you folks are concerned about your kids and grandkids, you better let the officers do their job and take care, because, and I know we got some good UND police too, and they do a pretty good job watching University Avenue, because there is a lot of foot traffic, and in fact, late this afternoon, right next door to me, there was some more very, very suspicious drug activity. So, anyway, let's try to keep this town clean for the safety of our kids and grandkids. And I brought this up quite a while ago. There still isn't any handicap parking right in front of the Franklin. Back when Jimmy Lyons had the auto shop, there was handicap parking right on the right-hand side here. There should be at least one, if not two, right in front of the Franklin, because it is tough trying to get a parking spot here. So, anyway, thanks, folks.
Thank you, Mr. Denault. Any other citizen comments, Ms. Lundmark?
Nope, that's all I have.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 9, city administrator comments. Mr. Phelan, any comments this evening?
A few, Mayor. I want to thank the Grand Forks School District. We were there a couple weeks ago. They did approve the Cirrus Aircraft pilot tax incentive, so I want to thank them. We're going to plan to be at the County Commission meeting tomorrow. Might be a little steeper climb there on the Cirrus Aircraft tax incentive, but we're still optimistic that we can get that across the finish line. So we're going to be there tomorrow to brief that issue. I also want to give the City Council an update that I'm also going to present on some county-city collaborations that I've met with previously with Commissioner Bierke. And so I'm going to give them an update on all those various items to make sure they're on board with all those various things that we're working on that are service collaborations, maybe some property swaps. And then what my plan is to brief that to the County Commission, and then at next week's committee of the whole meeting, I'll bring those back and I'll have the list along with their insight and feedback, and then I'll ask the same from you folks. So that's what we're going to do, and I'll plan to present as a follow-up to you next week, Monday. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Phelan. And we'll move on to item 10, mayor and council member comments. Ms. Osowski, any comments this evening?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Berg, any comments?
No, thank you.
Ms. Lunsky?
No, thank you.
Mr. Friedhoffs?
Tomorrow night, there's a social at Eli Ivy for the B-1 bomber pilots, and Mr. Boczynski will be speaking. And so, good opportunity if you want to come get some free food and also meet the B-1 pilots and their squadron that's in town.
Yeah, don't come for my welcome speech. Come to welcome the 28th. I can promise you that'll be more enjoyable. All right, Mr. Veen.
No,
please.
thank you.
All right, Vice President Weigel?
No, thank you, Mayor.
President Sandy?
Yeah, just a couple things, Mayor. So I think perhaps our next fifth Monday, maybe we should do a council work session to talk through some of these issues. Just throwing it out there for people's comment. Maybe if you want to get a hold of me and let me know your opinion if talking about water treatment plant and changing amendments and those sorts of things, we should probably do it publicly rather than all huddle somewhere where the news won't know. Speaking of which, the Pulitzer Prize winner is reporting tonight that Cindy Shriver Beck passed away. So it's sad to hear that. She was a heck of a person. She was a really nice person, hardworking. She did really good things for our state and for her community. So my condolences to them. Thank you, Mayor.
Yep, that's pretty sad. All right, I really don't have any comments. Just want to thank, everyone for coming in and the public engagement. We always like that. We've still got some that hung out to the end. So thank you for being here, Andrew. And Matthew, you have to be here. You're paid to be here. So with that, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
I move adjournment.
Got a motion to adjourn for Ms. Osowski, second for Ms. Burke. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Wait.